All right, this is State of Mind. If you like what you see, please subscribe and hit this little button right here. Because guess what, folks? We are at 99,000. And so we're very, very close to getting the 100. That is the milestone. And it gets me a little teary-eyed because it's been such hard work, but it's been so worth it, and we're going to get there real soon here. So, anyway, enough of that. Who I have here today is, I would say at this point, as this person sitting in front of me is, I think it's the most famous person in the world. I'm just telling you that. Because I see him everywhere. I see him on Jimmy Kimmel, Charlemagne the God. I mean, what hasn't he done in the last month? He's a New York Times best-selling author. And as I look at mine over there,
Yeah.
he's the biggest thing. This is a fact. You can debate whether he's the most famous person in the world, but you can't debate that there's been nobody bigger on ESPN. No, or any sports that in my lifetime. I know I'm kissing his ass a lot, but he's my friend. He's I don't think he's done everything that he does, he succeeds, even acting. So, I'm going to introduce you now to Brick. His name is Brick. Stephen A. Smith, who plays Brick on General Hospital. What's up, dude?
My brother. What's going on, man? You know I love it. I love it. I love when you call me Brick. You know that.
It's the best, man.
Yeah, man. It is.
Well, let's talk about you as Brick.
Okay.
Because I know I say this all the time, and I'll say it again for the people who haven't heard me say it 1,000 times. You're a natural actor. And I know you don't want to hear, or I know you're humble, right? And acting isn't your main. But I'm telling you, when Stephen A. first came into General Hospital, and he had a couple lines, we were all like, oh, please. And I just knew when he said his first line, damn. How did you feel that day when you?
Well, believe it or not, in 2007, I had made a cameo appearance for 10 seconds. And they had asked me to come on the show because they heard I was a big General Hospital fan. But for me, yeah, I love General Hospital, but I loved you. I loved watching Sonny Corinthos. So it was a real disappointment that I couldn't get to do the scene with you. Well, fast forward 9 years later, 2016. Right. And that's when they called me on again, and then I learned that I would be doing a scene with you. And so for me, it was a dream come true. You know, Sonny Corinthos, my man. I can't wait. And then I got up there, and you were so generous, you were so kind, and then, you see everybody, and, because we're filming scenes, and you see these other scenes that are being filmed, and you see how everybody's got to know what they're doing, and all of a sudden it hit me, and I was like, I can't mess this up.
Yeah.
I mess up a scene, it holds everybody up. We got to start the whole process again. And so the gratitude and the gratification that I was feeling immediately shifted to, okay, I can't mess this up for everybody else. I got to be a part of the team. I got to make sure I do my job.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, the joy of it went out the window, and it was supplanted by nervousness because it was like, I got to make sure I do this right. And, I did the first few scenes, and it was like, you immediately gravitated. You was like, oh, you got it. You got it. Frank Valentini, the executive producer, came running down. How much time do you have to do this? We want to make this a recurring role. And I remembered why I was successful in the scene. I went back to a guy that watched General Hospital all the time for the last 40 years. Damn. And I was like, I know what this role with Sonny is supposed to be.
Yeah.
You see?
Yeah.
And I said that saved me because it was like, yeah, you're acting, but in the same breath, it was like, this is what it's supposed to be. If you Sonny, you can't be this. You can't be this. You got to be that. If you're his right hand, if you one of his henchmen, you've got to be somebody that brings this to the table.
Absolutely.
And that helped immensely.
Yeah, and for the people that don't know, soap opera is very difficult.
Very.
You have one take.
That's it.
And then you start feeling like the camera people are going,
Yep.
we gotta go home now.
That's right.
It ain't 20 takes.
Nope. Not at all.
So if you're not on the money, you'll feel it.
That's right. Because you're holding everybody else
Yeah,
up.
but because of what you do I think let me ask you something, because I've been asking everybody, because I think there's a correlation between this and that. I'm going to ask you something.
Sure.
You don't care what people think.
Not really.
Okay. And you're not mentally ill.
No.
Stephen A., I'm telling you right now. See, I've always cared what people think way too much. Mm-hmm. And it messes you up.
Right.
Especially when you're mentally ill.
Right.
My wife, my son, I had Frank Grillo on. They don't care. They have no mental illness.
Right.
So it's amazing with what you have done. It's amazing. You have to not care what people think to a certain degree.
Right. That's what I mean by that. I don't mean it in its full literal sense.
Yes.
Of course you care to some degree. But what's the criteria? What's the job description? What defines excellence or subpar or mediocrity? What defines that? Those are the kind of things that you have to research. And then at the end of the day, you put your best foot forward and you live with the consequences. When I went into a studio acting next to you,
Right.
I listened to the advice that you gave me because that's one of the reasons why I don't worry too much when I show up on General Hospital, because you constantly guide me. You remember after my mother passed away, God rest her soul, you were guiding me through a scene and telling me to what emotions to pull out to do this scene with you. You've always done it. You've always looked out for me. Frank Valentini's telling me what he's looking for, et cetera, et cetera. So my thing is, okay, what do you think? What does Frank think? Because I know y'all know.
Yeah.
And so I gauge like somebody that's a neophyte, somebody that is not really in tune or not really an expert. You're in no position to judge what I'm doing. Yeah. Not when I'm getting counsel from the experts. Yeah. And when it comes to General Hospital, people like you and Frank are experts. So I'll come to you after every scene. How was that? Yeah. Was that good? Do we need to do it over? I know we don't want to do it over, but do we need to do it over? Yeah. And if I got your okay and I got Frank's okay, then fine. I might go back and look at myself, critique myself a little harsher, say I might have done this here, there better, or whatever the case may be. But the number one thing that I'm deferring to are the experts who are 10 times more invested than me to define whether I did a good job or not. And that's why I'm not worried, because I got okay from y'all. So what do I care about somebody else that doesn't?
But you're also born, Stephen A., with an incredible amount of confidence. Yeah. You are, right?
Now, I wouldn't say born with it, but that confidence.
You developed it?
It's been developed over the years because I've been through so much.
Damn, you seem like you.
No, I was at too much adversity, too much self-doubt, too many things that plagued me that I had to overcome from the time that I was young. Once I overcome it, it's almost like almost like climbing over that wall. Once you do it, it's like, I ain't going back. It's almost like being poor, and then all of a sudden you become a bit rich, a bit more affluent. I ain't going back. It's just that determination. Like, it's like, you will not stop me. Somehow, some way, I'm going to scratch and claw the way that I always have. And the line that I constantly use, particularly when I give speeches, I say, I am brilliant because I know I'm not. I listen to those who are. I learn from them, and I make sure I march forward. It's the fact that I don't assume I've arrived. I never assume that I've hit the finish line. I don't assume that I'm a finished product. I know that I am a stronger judge against myself than most people's judgment of me. So as long as I'm living up to the standard that I've set for myself, most times I've got people beat. That is how I roll.
Damn, love that.
Yeah.
All right, let me ask you about the 49ers because
Yeah, man.
we have to go there because
Sure.
have you ever seen two quarterbacks go down in the championship game?
No.
I've never have either.
Well, have you ever seen a team that lost 4 quarterbacks in the same season? They lost Trey Lance, they lost Jimmy Garoppolo, they lost Brock Purdy, and then they lost Josh Johnson. I mean, I've never seen it before. And even though I had the Eagles winning the NFC Championship game by a close margin, I thought it was going to be very close, very tight. I thought that the San Francisco 49ers are an elite team.
Yeah.
I just looked at them and I said, Debo Samuels, Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, the play calling of Kyle Shanahan. They had the defense lethal. I just said, I found myself incredibly sad when they lost on Sunday because my attitude was they didn't have a chance once that happened. You can't throw the football. The best team in football knows you have to run the football because you literally can't throw it. And it was just such a way to go out. I just felt really bad. I'm not taking any credit away from the Philadelphia Eagles.
They're tough
They're
and
tough.
mean.
They're mean. They
Yeah.
deserve it. But the reality of the situation is that wasn't the 49ers that the Eagles faced yesterday. They didn't have the same team. I would like to see the 49ers with any of their starters. That means a Brock Purdy, a Trey Lance, a Jimmy Garoppolo, or if they were lucky enough to acquire an Aaron Rodgers. Same exact team with a full-time quarterback behind center. I'd like to see that game over again.
I know.
Yeah.
Because I saw they were containing Jalen Hurt early on, the
Yes.
defense.
Yeah, well, he wasn't trying to throw the football too much. Their running game, they were about the ground and pound yesterday. You knew it. And their mentality was, we're going to wear them down. We believe that we can wear them down. And even though they were excited about Brock Purdy and you knew that he could play, the reality is that in their eyes, he hadn't gone against a caliber of team of their magnitude.
Right,
So
right.
you know what? We're going to stuff it down their throat, and we're going to see how they respond to this level of adversity. That was their game plan. That's why I thought the Eagles would win, but I thought it would be a much closer game. But once they lost their quarterback, San Francisco lost their quarterbacks, it was an unfair matchup. I mean, you literally had somebody out there. I could have been the quarterback. They didn't have, like Christian McCaffrey actually had to be put at the quarterback position because they didn't have a quarterback. That was really sad.
Do you think if porn star
Jimmy Garoppolo, yes, that would be him. Hey, it ain't my fault he was on Melrose with a porn star. That was him. But it's not an insult. I'm not knocking him.
No.
It just is what it is.
I mean, he might have done at least something. I don't
No,
know.
without question. He might have lost, but what I'm saying is he could throw the football.
Yeah.
And because of that, you could run your normal offense and then let the chips fall where they may.
Yeah.
They had no chance because they didn't have a quarterback.
All right, let me get into boxing.
Sure.
You ready?
Sure.
Who is one of the top 5 heavyweights of all time?
Who's one of the top that's
well,
boxing
give
right
me-
now?
Yeah, no, just in all time, from the past to now. Who's the 5 best heavyweights?
Well, for me, Muhammad Ali.
Okay.
I would tell you George Foreman.
Damn.
I would tell
Okay.
you George Foreman. I would tell you, believe it or not, I would put Larry Holmes up in there.
I know.
Larry Holmes was a magnificent. He had
I
a
know.
great jab and a great right hand.
I know.
I would put him up there. It would not be Joe Frazier. It would not be Ken Norton. It would not be Ernie Shavers, even though I respect the hell out of all of those guys. I would say that. I'd say Mike Tyson. He's got to be up there, of course. That would be a 4th one. Believe it or not, you might find it hard to agree with this, but based on his competition, his boxing ability,
Tyson Fury.
well, listen.
Come on.
I'll throw him in there. I was going to say Evander Holyfield.
I love him.
But I would tell you, see, here's my problem with Tyson Fury, and it's not him. I really have a problem with the fact that he's 40 pounds heavier than most fighters he fights. He fought Deontay Wilder. He had a 38-pound weight advantage. So what Tyson Fury does, who's an exceptional boxer, he hits you and then he leans on you. He wears you out.
I get it.
He takes your legs from you because he's leaning on you and you got to push him off.
Yeah.
And that takes energy. And then obviously with his boxing ability, and obviously if you're 273, 278 pounds, you got a punch to you. I mean, you're going to have that punch to you. That's how he beat Deontay Wilder. He got dropped by a dude twice that was 38 pounds lighter than him.
Right.
You have to take that into consideration. But because of his boxing ability, the fact that he's undefeated, if somebody said Tyson Fury, I don't mind. My issue is I would love to see him in the ring against a boxer / puncher of his same size.
There's nobody that size.
There's nobody that size. And so that's
King Kong Ortiz is big and
well he's not. King Kong Ortiz
6'4".
He's not even that. He's about 6'2". Deontay Wilder was about 6'6", 6'7". Tyson Fury's about 6'7", 6'8".
Yeah.
You look at it from that perspective, and Ortiz is about 230 to 240 pounds when he's big. And so you're walking around against a guy like Tyson Fury, he's got you by about 30 plus pounds. And that is my issue. Even when Lennox Lewis was a big, tall heavyweight, he didn't have that kind of size advantage over the Mike Tyson. Remember when he got knocked out by Oliver McCall and then came back and avenged it when Oliver McCall quit? Got knocked out by Hakeem Rahman, came back and avenged that with a knockout over Hakeem Rahman.
Yeah.
The point is that you look at him and you don't see a guy. You saw a guy that towered over people from time to time with height. With Tyson Fury, it's height and weight. And so he almost gives you the feeling there should be a different weight class, a different weight division.
That's what I was going to say. Why can't they should make a different? There's not many people like him.
Exactly. No, that's why I say he's gifted. Excuse me, but I would tell you that as great as he is, because of that weight issue that I tackled, I would tell you I'm more of an Evander Holyfield kind of guy.
Okay, and you say that Mike Tyson is one of the, but I consider the great like Ali who fought everybody.
Sure.
And even lost and came back and won.
Right.
Where I see Mike Tyson as just a beast, an animal, and skillful.
Right.
But when he came on to fight people who, let's say, weren't afraid of him, or let's say maybe had more skill than he did, he got knocked out.
Well, let me respond to that. Number one, I want to make sure that I piggyback off your first question by acknowledging the great Joe Louis and
I
others.
know.
I'm not talking about all those guys from back in the day, 30, 40 years before I was born. I'm not going there. I was only talking about the guys that I saw alive and in living color. But I certainly want to pay homage to those elder statesmen in the category of all by themselves, especially the times that they was fighting in. Jack Johnson and other guys, the times that they were fighting in. Getting back to your point about Tyson, here's what I would remind you of. When Tyson was in his heyday, anybody that he didn't fight was because they were scared to fight him.
Okay.
Wasn't his fault. He didn't run from nobody. He was taking people out. He walked into the ring with bad intentions, and he wasn't playing around.
Yeah.
And the Razor Ruddocks of the world, the Frank, I forgot Frank's last name, from England, from Great Britain.
Bruno.
His name, Frank Bruno. That's it, Frank Bruno. You had him. Leon Spinks was just a blown up light heavyweight that went there for the money and was scared to death, had to go in the ring, was crying before he had to get in the ring because he knew what was going to happen to him. Don't get me started with the Bruce Seldons of the world who fake they got hit just to get down, and then the minute they count to 10, he gets up and he hugs Mike Tyson. I mean, Lennox Lewis at that time was on the come up, and Mike Tyson was incarcerated. He comes out, he loses twice to Holyfield, bites his ear. We get all of that. Riddick Bowe, we can't forget him and what he brought to the table. He could punch. He had a jab,
but he was,
but he got hit too much.
I know
he got hit too much, and I'm telling you that when I see Mike Tyson in his, I'm going by Mike Tyson in his heyday. He was elusive. He didn't get hit much, and boy did he hit you. And he was a body snatcher. Uppercuts were vicious. He had speed. He had head movement, and my God, he came there with bad intentions. He was the closest thing to George Foreman. I'm talking about in terms of his viciousness that we ever saw.
And it's not his fault that there wasn't any great people that he could fight.
Right.
like Ali had Frazier
Yeah,
and
but
Norton.
you're going by later on, though. Later on, okay, he lost to Holyfield. He lost to Lennox Lewis when he was ready to retire.
Okay.
Whole Robin Givens thing and all of
Okay,
this other
okay.
stuff, right? So you got that. I mean, what did he lost to McBride for crying out loud, some no name. I mean, do you realize Mike Tyson got old and out of shape to
I
a point?
get it,
Remember
yes.
this never happened. He got knocked down by the guy, right? And it was strictly for fatigue. He actually reached out to the referee to help him up. Yes, he wasn't knocked out. He wasn't hurt. He was tired. You know what I'm saying? Because that's how old and out of shape he was.
No,
He
I
was
get
in
it.
better shape at age 54 when he fought Roy Jones Jr. in an
Yeah.
exhibition match than he was his last couple of fights in his career.
Yeah.
Think about that.
Yeah.
So we can't
Yeah.
go by that. We got to judge Mike Tyson on his heyday. And in his heyday, other than George Foreman, find me someone more menacing, more vicious,
Nobody's more menacing.
more of an executioner. It was Mike Tyson.
But I would take Holyfield over Mike Tyson.
Okay. Well, he beat him twice. Got his ear bit off. That didn't help. I definitely you could take Holyfield over, but Holyfield was really dominant as a light heavyweight. Moved up to heavyweight and had a trilogy versus Riddick Bowe. Right, had a couple of fights against Lennox Lewis, 1 or 2 fights against Lennox Lewis, but that was it. And then the Tyson, that's it at the heavyweight. He beat Buster Douglas, of course, but that was it for him at the heavyweight division. Most of his work was done at the light heavyweight.
I get you.
division.
Yeah, I get you. That guy Mugabe, or what was his name?
No, John the Beast Mugabe was a middleweight. He fought Hagler.
But he fought
Hagler. He didn't fight Holyfield. No,
somebody. Holyfield fought
the white Muhammad Qawi.
Yeah, that was a great fight.
That was a great fight too. That's who Holyfield fought at the light heavyweight spot and beat him. But Holyfield was really a light heavyweight that was willing to move up to heavyweight, and he did a better job than Michael Spinks at that.
Yeah.
That's what happened.
All right, let's get out of the boxing.
Sure.
Well, I just want to talk to you about. I know you've talked about it a lot, but the Rihanna thing, and the Beyonce thing.
Yes, sir.
Because I thought it was ridiculous, to be honest with you. Because when I heard about it, because it's all over.
Sure.
I saw it on the show that was you were on.
Yeah, I was on Sherry Shepherd's show.
Sherry Shepherd.
Yes.
And I know you. It's not. You had good intentions, and you're a fan of both.
Yes.
I mean, Stephen A. I'm a fan of both, but on my Spotify, I have 2 songs of Beyonce and about 7 of Rihanna.
Right.
You can't be a fan of both?
I don't know why they both got my money. I paid for both albums.
Right.
It's several albums.
Exactly.
I bought them both. I'm a fan of both. It's just that.
Is it the loyalty of a fan base?
It's the loyalty of her fan base that reacted the way that they did, and some fools jumped in to make themselves relevant and to give these impressions. But the reality of the situation is this. I'm a fan of both. I think both are sensational. I'm just more of a Beyonce fan because I think that as an entertainer in the Super Bowl halftime show format, I think that Beyonce is sensational, and I got to wait and see what Rihanna does. Fair enough. But I think that the whole brouhaha came about because people are constantly looking for something to sensationalize. And where they bothered me was they talked about pitting 2 black women against each other. I said, that's utterly ridiculous. So am I pitting 2 black men together when I asked Prince or Michael Jackson? I mean, they're both gone now, God rest their souls. But was I doing that then when I felt that way about Luther Vandross compared to Teddy Pendergrass? Would I feel that then? When I talk about rap artists, because I love Jay-Z, does that mean I don't listen to Eminem or Nas or LL Cool J or anybody? It's utterly ridiculous. We understand that.
If you love Sonny, you can't love Jason?
How about that? Same thing with General Hospital. So you look into all of that stuff and you just realize, no pun intended, but the state of mind of some people, you're trying to find something to complain about and to sensationalize. And I think that we have to pay attention in the world that we're living in today to intent more so than ever before.
Yes.
You got a lot of people that don't want to go out there and put in the work.
Yeah.
What they want to do is they want to create clickbait.
Yeah.
They want to know how to monetize that and create something off of that they can profit off of. Well, I bust my tail. I'm working every day. I don't have time for that nonsense. Right. You asked me a question, I gave you an answer. Sherry Shepherd's production staff came to me and said to me, we want to create a debate style format. They said, for our show with you, you do first take every day. So Sherry's going to ask you questions, but we want to debate. We want to create a debate here. So whatever she asks you, just keep that in mind. So when she asked me about Rihanna, I thought about Beyonce.
Yeah.
And that's all it was. And so you understand that that wasn't her intent. She certainly had no malintent, neither did her staff. But people out there who will look for something, let them look for it. As you pointed out earlier, I can take it. Yeah. They want to bring some heat, whatever the case may be. You want to make something out of nothing, knock yourself out.
But don't you feel, Stephen A., when you're all about the truth, you can't get hurt because you're just going to say your truth.
Right.
How can you hurt me if you ask me why I did something and I'm just going to tell you the truth?
Well, for the most part, that's correct.
Right.
There are mitigating circumstances. Like, for example, I work for ESPN. Certainly, this is not an example of that because they had no issue with it. But there are often times when I have told the truth and I have said what I needed to say. And there's a reaction to it that the folks at Disney might find unpleasant.
Yeah.
And so as somebody who represents their brand, not just myself, I do have an obligation to be mindful and cognizant of what affects them.
I understand.
The problem is the public knows that. And so what they'll try to do is create noise to make Disney react, to go a roundabout way to get at me.
Get you.
I understand that. Again, that comes with the territory. And sometimes you have to be mindful of it. But at the end of the day, it comes back to what you said. I didn't get here by being some fake phony.
No.
I got here by being me.
Right.
And I'm going to go to the grave being me.
Right.
That's just the way it's going to be.
Hallelujah. That's the way
That's just the way it's going to be.
You've interviewed a lot of people. Let me get my notes here because I don't want to be wrong. Magic Johnson.
Yeah.
Jay-Z, Oprah, Denzel, Eric Braeden.
Yeah. You. Don't forget you. Yeah.
What is, of all those people, what is the one thing that they have in common between people that have such high intelligence or whatever it is? Is it sensitivity? Is it confidence? Is it
the understanding for the need to sacrifice? None of you got to where you are.
Damn, you just got me choked up, dude.
By failing to understand, you have to sacrifice. You cannot be a person that wants to achieve great things and want to have great impact,
right,
but has no desire to pay a price for where you're going.
Yep.
You guys and ladies truly personify what it means to pay a price for a goal and an objective greater than yourself. Every single one of y'all, I've been blessed, and I consider you a friend. I love you with all my heart. Denzel throughout the years, Jamie Foxx, Eric Braeden, Magic Johnson, Michael Jordan, Isaiah Thomas, Shaq, Kobe, the list goes on and on. Every single one of y'all have had private conversations with me that I've never repeated that point to a price that you were willing to pay. And I think primetime Deion Sanders, new head coach at Colorado football, said it to me one time, and others have said it as well. They talked about, if the road is easy, was it really worth achieving what you achieved?
Yeah.
The goal, the joy, the elation is coupled with a level of relief. It's like, I went through this, and here I am. I'm sitting here today as a bestseller for the New York Times. Everybody else is celebrating but me. Wow. I got my assistant, who I love with all my heart. She's so wonderful. My bodyguard is my guy, Juvie. He's like a brother to me. My sister, my brother-in-law, my lady, my family, my friends. Everybody's celebrating. I'm just relieved, man, because I know what it took for me to write that book. I'm no ghostwriter. I wrote this.
I know you.
I wrote every
Somebody
word.
said that to me today.
I wrote
I said,
every
no,
word.
Stephen A. wrote himself.
I wrote it. I wrote every word.
Right.
I did the voiceover.
Right.
I'm the one that had to put pen to paper to sit down and relive my mother's death, relive my mother's life, the price that she had to pay because of the things my father did and did not do, the profound impact it had on my family and my friends because they were around me, not knowing what was going on in my head and in my heart and the load that I was carrying every single day. So when I get to this point, Maurice Benard texts me, I'm so proud of you, my brother, and Eric Braden, I'm so proud of you, and my family and everybody. And I walked away last Wednesday was when they announced I was a New York Times bestseller. And nobody saw me, and I just walked away. And I just walked away, and I went into my room, and I just looked in the mirror, and I just allowed tears to stream down my face. And the reason why I did that is because I was named a New York Times bestseller on my mother's birthday.
Wow.
That's the day it happened. And to see the people that I love most celebrating it was enough for me. Because at the end of the day, the book wasn't really about me. It was about my mom. And it was about all of those people who helped get me here. And to me, the success validated their investment and their faith in me, which reminded me of what my mother felt for me. That's why I'm here today. And so when I think about the price, and I talk about the price, where my gratitude comes in outside of those people and instead focuses on people like yourself and others, it's that reminder, this is why you do this. This is why it's hard. This is why it matters. This is the impact that it is. It's what it's all about. It's why we do what we do, because there's always a higher purpose. Even when we're not thinking about it, it's always there.
That was amazing. I'm going to give you my side real quick.
Sure.
Which is a whole different side than your side.
Okay.
What happened with me.
All right.
And this will be the mental health part of this thing.
Sure.
I don't know if I'll be able to because I'm already very emotional.
Yeah.
You made a call for me to be on Charlemagne the God.
Yeah.
Which was a beautiful thing you did, and I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And I was ready. Everything was gung-ho, and then the pandemic hit.
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up doing Charlemagne the God in Joshua's bedroom in Temecula. And it was really bad, man.
Right.
He was a sweetheart to me.
Right.
Because I guess he was a fan. His mother was a fan. I don't know. But he didn't.
And he's had his whole mental
same
health
thing.
issues. He's written books about it. All
Right.
that stuff. Yeah.
But, he's like, who's in the bedroom? Who's in the bed right there? That's my son.
Right.
Through the Zoom. I had to do everything on the Zoom. It was really just. But little did he know or anybody know during that period that I was ready to go. Every day for 4 months.
Yeah.
I was thinking of ending my life.
Yeah.
So when I got the call I didn't party either, because when I got the call, it was a lockdown that you're a New York Times bestseller. But I was so messed up that I could not feel.
Right.
They were all happy on the phone, the publisher, but I couldn't feel anything. So I remember going outside by myself, and just like you, but in a different.
Yeah.
There was a tear just coming down.
Yeah.
And that was it. And then I went in the house. There's no celebration because you couldn't go anywhere.
Right.
So by you being able to, I know you've been on every talk show and everything. Maybe I feel vicariously through you that I can, at least you're doing it and I couldn't. But it's like two tales here.
Yeah.
And they're both different, but they're both kind of similar. But thank you for that.
Well, you express a lot, and you and I talk a lot off the air. And you've been like a big brother to me since I've met you. You always give me advice. I even wrote about it in my book.
Yeah.
You know, when you talked about it's uncomfortable watching you and Max. It's like you said, I need you to get your inner brick. I need you.
Something.
And you were guiding me in the whole bit. And I remember I called you during the pandemic because I was worried about you. And I knew it. And I'm just like, I just wanted to remind you how important you are. Because part of the numbness that we feel at times is when we feel that we have no impact.
Yeah.
We feel like we're just alone in our space. Yeah. And, you know, I have this thing about me. It's like a lot of times I go places now and I have my sister Carmen with me. I love her so much. I love all my sisters, but she and I, very, very tight. She's my youngest sister. She's 4 years older than me. I'm the youngest of 6. And I have Carmen with me for 2 reasons. Number one, she's full of life and she's always smiling and laughing about every little thing. But the other thing is, my struggle was her struggle. She suffered just like I did. Yeah. Because she suffered under the same conditions that I did. And to see her full of life, it's kind of hard for me to have an excuse not to be full of life. Yeah. And so you transfer that, and then you look at my assistant Sumatra and my bodyguard Juvie and them, and it's like, I have them around. Why? Because their presence in my life reminds me, I'm the boss, as they would call me. I'm the asset. Yeah, right. You know, I got to look out for them too. And I go see my daughters, and it's like, I'm daddy. It's not just about me. It's about them. Yeah. And, you know, you got my show, First Take, and it's like, these people are counting on me. And even though the pressure is there sometimes, a lot of times, the value doesn't fade. Yeah. Because they wouldn't value me if I wasn't valuable. Right. And when you recognize all of that stuff, and then you take on the struggle, you're not drained. You're emboldened. Yeah. You're uplifted. Mm-hmm. Because the same people that you're responsible for is going to be the same people that are ready to celebrate with you when you succeed at whatever it is that you choose to do. And the beauty of it is that they're not trying to define success for you. They're saying your success is their success. Your wife is that way. Yeah. Your children are that way. Right. They didn't say, well, Dad, we want you to succeed at this. We want you to succeed at that. Well, baby, we want you to succeed at this or that. No, what they're saying is, what do you define as success? That's what we want for you. And when you have that, you have what most people are looking for. I have that too. Mm-hmm. And sometimes when we're in that struggle, our state of mind, we don't see it that way. No, of course not. But it's always there. Yeah. And having that recall from time to time saves us.
I want to get into, you got me all emotional, man. But I didn't know it was going to go this way, which I love. Let's talk about your book. Yeah. Straight Shooter, New York Times bestseller. The problem with the hardbacks, you got to wait till they come to put the thing on the thing because they don't know if you're going to be on.
That's right. That's right.
Your father. The story that you tell about your father is amazing. Where he would not. Your mom was dying, and your father didn't want to say bye.
Well, he was just downstairs watching the NBA Finals. He's right there watching the NBA Finals, baseball games with his Westerns. He was vacillating between one or the other two. And he was a guy, I'm never going to say he didn't love my mother. That's for God to determine. But he certainly didn't show it as much as he should. And, you know, for me, I didn't want to write a book where I'm going in about my father.
I get it.
I really didn't. The problem is, Other than God himself, there is no one that I am more grateful to than my mother, Janet Smith. God rest her soul. She is the greatest woman I have ever known. When we talk about true depression, it's when she died on June 1st, 2017. I hid it from you.
Damn.
I hid it from my friends. I hid it from my family. I hid it from my loved ones. I was a mess. I didn't want to kill myself, but I wanted to die.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it came down to my two daughters, Samantha and Nyla, because I have a responsibility to them, and I love them with all my heart. And I had to take care of my daughters, her granddaughters. But I was an absolute mess. It was empty.
Damn.
I never felt that dark in my life. I was volatile. I was uncompassionate. I was empty. And because
there's pain. There's a lot of pain.
it was a lot of pain, but also fury.
Yeah.
The fury did not come from my father treating me the way he treated me. It came from what he did to my mother. To have my mother, I'm old-fashioned, and I know in this woke culture that we living in, it ain't the most popular thing to say, but I am very chauvinistic when it comes to certain things that a man is supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
To me, the number one responsibility for a man is to provide
Yes.
and protect or die trying.
Yes.
Period. I don't eat unless my family eat. If they hungry, it's because I'm starving. I'm not comfortable until they comfortable. That's how I live. That's just my code. And to have a man that was the man of the house working and taking his money elsewhere, whether it was to another family, womanizing, gambling or whatever, while my mother had to work 16 hours a day, 7 days a week, with 1 week's vacation every year for over 20 plus years, just to make sure a roof was over our head and clothes were on our back and food was on our table. To put a woman through that is unconscionable to me. And to make it worse, the anger came from, I have a better contract now. But in 2015, I had a pretty decent contract where I signed to make a few $1 million a year.
Right.
So for the first time in my life, I'm in a position where you want that house in St. Thomas?
Right.
You know, I already send you on a cruise at least 3 times a year. What else you want?
Right.
Want a diamond ring? I got you. You want a fur coat? I got you. These are the things you want. Whatever you need, you know. And cancer ravaged her. And for that to happen was devastating, because you don't question God's plan. You don't question what he has in store. But I'd be lying if I said I didn't. Of course I questioned it. Of course I questioned it.
Of course.
And the only thing that saved me from that, other than my pastor, of course, who I have a great relationship with, and I'm not the most religious person in the world, don't get me wrong, but I have a relationship with God, I have a relationship with my pastor. But my mother ultimately did it for me, because she said, I'm fine. There's a better place, and I'm going to it.
Damn.
And she said, I'll miss you, and I know you're going to miss me, but I trained you for this. I prepared you for this. And she said, by the way, you should be okay. She said, because what do you want it to be in reverse? She said, because if you love me, you don't wish for this to be reversed. You don't wish for you to be the one to leave.
Right.
And I'm the one here.
Right.
This is how it's supposed to be. And I can't tell you how often I hold on to that to get me through the day, because there's times that I'm around. It could be my assistant. It could be my bodyguard. It could be my family. It could be my friends, my girl, my loved ones, whatever the case may be. Every single day, there comes a moment where my mother hits me.
Damn.
And I'm overwhelmed by sadness that she's gone. And sometimes it takes hours. Other times it just takes minutes. But I need that time where I'm not bothered. And the only person on this planet Earth that can interrupt that quiet moment for me and get me through it is my sister Carmen.
Wow, that's amazing.
Because Carmen goes through the same thing I do. because it was her mother too.
Right.
If it wasn't your mother, it don't matter to me that you understand.
Right.
It don't matter to me that you might have lost your mom and you feeling the same way. I get it. I appreciate it, whatever. But you didn't have my mother. Carmen did. And that is where her presence in my life saves me.
Now, when your brother passed away, was it a similar feeling that you had, or was it different?
It was different because I wasn't thinking about what he was deprived of the way I thought about my mother being deprived of. My mother had put in so many years of sacrifice.
Right.
It was a different, there's a different price she paid.
Right.
My brother's death caused a profound level of sadness and, dare I say, depression for me because I missed my brother.
How old was he?
33.
I mean,
He was 33 and he died in a car accident.
Yeah.
And so for me, it was like, he's gone. It's my big brother, you know, but I've got an older cousin, Derek, that's been like a brother to me, and we're very tight, and his presence in my life is a salvation for me. I got my brother-in-law, Darren, Odie, I call him. We're very tight. I had a mentor of mine in college, that Mr. D, Mr. Robert Devon, he passed away, God rest his soul. I've been blessed and fortunate, and to be honest with you, you know, there's a lot of people that I used. I'm a member of the Omega Psi Phi fraternity. I've got some of my brothers that are like brothers to me. We're tight. You are tight with me. Right. Eric Braden is tight with me. And so it takes all of y'all, but what I get from all of y'all, it's not quite my brother, but it's a brotherhood.
Yeah, I understand.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand.
There's no one that comes close to meeting mama. You know, no one. No one's in the same stratosphere. You understand what I'm saying? It's impossible. Yeah. And my brother is my brother, but I got a few brothers that they ain't my brother Basil, but I love all of y'all for the impact that y'all have in my life. But nobody's mama. Nobody. Nobody's mama.
All right, listen, I think this has been incredible, but I want to give you two names.
Sure.
And I'll give you one first, and then I'll give you the other one.
Okay.
And I just want your feelings on these two names.
Okay.
Damar Hamlin.
Very blessed, very fortunate. If it were not for the medical professionals for the Cincinnati Bengals, the Buffalo Bills, the NFL with the independent doctors, he would be gone. He'd be dead at the age of 24.
And also the AED.
Yes.
Because I saw something on Real Sports.
Yes, absolutely. What I'm saying is that a legitimate argument could be made that if he was anywhere other than a hospital or a football field, we would have had his funeral weeks ago.
Yes, of course. Positively.
He was gone.
Yeah.
So he's very blessed, very fortunate to be here. There's no doubt about that. And Godspeed to him. So I'm just happy that he's here. I'm sorry the Buffalo Bills weren't able to win for him. But he's very, very, very lucky and very blessed to still be alive.
The next name, Tyree Nichols.
Sadness doesn't even begin to describe what I feel about that. As a black man, what I try to say, and I've said this to white and black police officers, and I've said this to white people, you don't want violence inflicted on anybody if you're a decent, God-fearing human being. Mm-hmm. But fairness is the order of the day. What ravages us as a community, instead of us as a nation, is the fact that we're able to point to an inconsistency in the behavior that is exercised against young black men compared to everybody else. Mm-hmm. And we have to ask ourselves why that is. We have a situation in Tyree Nichols where he was a 29-year-old kid, a young man, with a 4-year-old child, by the way, driving home. He is stopped at a red light. He is pulled out of the car by police officers. They are excessively violent with him. He manages to get away and run. People saw that they ultimately caught him. What many of them don't know is that he was caught 3 houses away from his own house. How did you know where to look for him? Because you had the plates.
Right.
He wasn't hiding.
Right.
He was running home to his mama, trying to get to a safe place because he knew these officers were after him and he didn't know why. And 5 police officers who all were black have body armor on their bodies that they are blocking,
Right.
screaming all kinds of expletives at him. They got his hands behind his back. They have restrained him. But the sound of their voices doesn't indicate they've restrained him. They're screaming at him to put the hands behind their back when they had his hands behind his back.
Yeah.
They're screaming at him to be cooperative
yeah.
when he was in no condition to be uncooperative because they had already beaten him up.
Yeah.
And only because of a surveillance light across the street that the police officers didn't know was there, did we see, while 2 of them held him down, 1 officer kicked him in the face twice like he was kicking a field goal. Another officer came and hit him with a baton at least 2 or 3 times, this nightstick. And then after that, they held him up, stood him up, held him up. He's already beaten to a pulp. He's in no position to do anything but moan. And they punched him in the face 3 times.
And he's yelling, I want my mommy.
Well, that was before.
Oh, that was before.
That was before. And so when you see something like that and the magnitude of that, you know those black cops deserve to be put in jail. You know that their priority, their primary color was blue. It wasn't black. As a black person, you're appalled. They're a disgrace to our race that they would do something like this to an innocent young man. But it also brings us to the overlying issue about police and how police need their proper training. Absolutely. And how we need to focus. Exactly we need to focus on them being a deterrent, not just to criminals, but to criminal behavior exercised by anybody, including their own.
Right. And also, Stephen A., what about the recruiters?
Yes.
They need to be, whoever's hiring these people need to be more educated in who they're hiring.
Yes, exactly. Because all of that's true.
Right?
All of that's true. But you know, at the end of the day,
Rodney King happened how long ago?
That's true. But at the end of the day, it comes down to what's a part of your soul. And sometimes you're able to hide that until you don't have to.
But Stephen A., if you're, I know you're able to hide, but
it's hard.
You got to be able to.
Yes. I think that ultimately you got to bring the heavy hammer down. And listen, we don't like to say it because we're a civilized society, but the reality is that when hefty ramifications are the specter hovering over you, sometimes that's the deterrent that's needed. Right. And these officers need to be used as an example of what potentially should happen to you. And the quickness, I applaud the district attorney, I applaud the mayor, the local NAACP chapter president, everybody involved, because this process was expedited. But once again, it involves black officers. Well, there were times when white officers shot people in the back and justice was severely delayed. And so we have to take into consideration, we have to make sure it should set a precedent. These are the kind of things should happen. This is the timely fashion in which it could happen. Remember, they were fearful of riots in the streets. It didn't happen. You know why? Because the justice system responded rapidly. Yeah. They said, okay, you're fired. You're under arrest. You're indicted on second-degree murder charges, okay, inside of 3 weeks, not 6 months or a year and a half down the road. That's what we have to learn from this. And when you do stuff like that, notice how the American people all of a sudden held off on rioting. Of course. Why? Because they said, okay, this is how our justice system is supposed to work. You did what you were supposed to do. Right. So we're cool with it. Right. Do what you're supposed to do.
Yeah. They got to fix it.
They got to fix it.
All right, listen, one last question, and then we'll, if this is a very important question. Okay. Probably the most important question I've asked. Mm-hmm. If you were on a boat with Sonny Carly or Skip Bayless, who would you save if the boat was going down?
Oh, come on, man. Come on, man. Don't do that to me, man. I don't have an answer to that question. That is not fair. That is not fair. You know, I got love for all of y'all, everybody. I try to use both arms and my legs to save all of y'all if I could, but you wouldn't have a shot in hell with me because I can't swim that good.
I was gonna do the Mary Kay killed all that.
No.
All right, listen,
Right.
State of Mind audience. I'm gonna make this a two-parter. I don't do it usually, but I think I am. This was a treat, not only in Stephen A's my friend, and he's Stephen A. Smith, the man, but the way he opened up was very moving to me and meant a lot. Thank you, brother.
Anything for you, my brother. You know that. Thank you.
State of Mind. See you later. This is State of Mind. If you like what you see, you got to hit subscribe. There's this little thing right here. You see it? All right. Today, Sunday, I have Laura Wright. I'm sure many people know Laura as Carly Corinthos.
Almost Morgan.
Carly. That's right. Carly Corinthos Morgan.
Oh my gosh. So funny. Well, depending on when this airs.
She is she's been in this. Look, there's a lot of things that she just kicks ass in soap operas. She's the queen. I mean, she's been in this freaking business for 30 years, successfully for 30 years, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, in every soap she's been on, she's been successful. And she just, like came in to play this role where I was done with. It wasn't a personal thing on Laura. I didn't know Laura. I didn't know her work. I didn't know anything. It was just I was done with Carly. Can we just put the cards on the table? I was done with Carly. And on top of that, or despite of that, Laura came in and said, I don't care. I'm going to do this to the best of my ability. And she's made Carly the biggest thing around. She's won an Emmy. But what I'm very proud of her is because she's a certified meditation teacher. That's cool. All right. How you doing?
I'm good.
You like that monologue?
Wow, I love it. Thank you so much. How long did you work on that?
Not that long. I haven't, usually I have a kind of a script that I go on, but, we've known each other. We've talked a lot about stuff. So
I have to say, you were so right. You were done with Carly. And I didn't take it personally. I think that's really what has been the gift of our relationship is that when I started, you really needed a break from it being Sunny Carly, Sunny Carly. And that was 16 years ago. I mean, I've been there 16 years now. And so the funny part is that I was like, okay, like and I don't know why I didn't take it personally, because I'm sure back then I took a lot of things personally, but I was like, all right, he gets to have, that's okay. Like we're allowed to have our wants and then they put me with Jax, remember? And so I was with Ingo for like 6 years, which gave us great stuff. Like we were the best exes. We had a great time.
And I didn't know you.
No, not at all.
Or your work.
No.
Because maybe
it was another soap though, and we didn't really watch other networks. Like I knew you because I grew up watching General Hospital, so I always followed along, even though I was on another network. And I was on ABC for the first 7 years that I did daytime. So.
But back then, if I had cared about Carly, I would have watched you.
Right.
Just to see who they're bringing in.
Right.
But I just.
Well, you had also been through Tamara left. They brought on Jenny, chose to move on from Jenny. So there was a lot of Carly stuff that you had to be like, I'm just done.
I'm just done, yeah.
I get 100%.
Let's talk about what's going on right now. I want to get the GH stuff out of the way, and then we'll get deep and stuff.
Yeah.
So right now, what's going on is I'm playing a character named Mike. He's not Sonny. He's got amnesia. And
I love these kind of storylines. So
I'm having the greatest time. The audience is
split.
There's no split. Don't even try to say it's split. That's ridiculous. If anything, it's maybe 90-10 now. They're turning a little bit around, but
well, that's only if you read social media. But I don't know what else we have to go by, right?
One thing that I have is I have a real connection with the audience, my audience. Now, it may not be the whole GH, but it's and I can tell, like almost right away. And I'm the one who
what gets the backlash?
No.
Oh, okay.
They're not saying that they don't like Mike. They're saying they
just want you home.
They want Sonny, yeah.
Period.
And that's
and they love Sonny Carly.
Yeah. They all want Sonny Carly.
Right. Which is how grateful, right? I mean,
but usually it's when I don't like a storyline, I'm the one who's I'm having a great time.
Well, here's the thing. I was thinking about this because I had a feeling it was going to come up, and you had to do something. You can't break Carly and Sonny up in the old traditional way and everything, because Carly and Sonny have been through so much, and they are so solid, and they were so solid in their relationship that for them to split up in a way that was just silly really would take away from the relationship.
Yeah.
When you bury a son and you watch your father die together, like, Mike leaves, you then have something silly come of that. So, I found they did this storyline, which gave you something really great to play. It gave Carly and her world, it was kind of spiraling out of control. She didn't have Sonny's protection anymore. She didn't, Ava takes the daughter away. Like Carly was losing all of her, power or standing or life, really. But I grew up watching daytime, so screaming at the TV and yelling at your characters and wanting I just hate the nastiness.
Yeah.
That's the stuff I don't understand.
Yeah.
It's because people should be passionate about what they want. But, we can also love that you're going to get it, by the way. I can't imagine they think that, you're going to stay there forever.
No, I just think that in this particular story, Frank Sinatra should not sing country songs. I think that's kind of...
Did you sing a country song?
I'm trying to think.
Or were you damn close?
I'm very close.
You wore the hat.
Yeah, the hat's where it...
Well, I don't know.
And it's not me not liking. I'm just giving you my opinion.
Right.
And, but anyway, the next...
See, I just tell a story of what's coming. And so I know that what's coming, and really at this point we haven't even seen a script, but we know it's coming and we know it's kind of soon. It's going to be incredible.
The next
level is going to blow your mind.
It's going to be outrageous.
Right, but we have to get there.
Yeah, I think maybe what happened is maybe this shouldn't have been as long.
Right. But were there stuff happening, scheduling and stuff that shifted a lot of stuff? I don't know.
I'll tell you, I was supposed to do a movie, now I'm doing it at the end of the year. But that was it. It was like 2 to 3 weeks of...
But that stuff happens a lot in storytelling, and I don't think people realize that. When you are dealing with a cast of 30 actors, that some being on contract, some not, that also get to audition for other things, sometimes storylines do either end quick,
and
where you go, what just happened, or they get stretched out longer because of scheduling behind the scenes. Everyone is doing the best they can. That is the truth.
Yes.
No one's showing up going, how do we make this worse?
And this isn't a particular storyline that I'm having a great fucking time. And it's a trip because there was a day that I played Sonny.
Oh, yeah.
And Mike.
That was a couple weeks ago with me.
And I don't like...
That's a tough one.
Sonny. I don't like his energy. I don't like his darkness.
Ooh.
I know I've been doing...
No, that's something interesting that can segue into stuff that we want to talk about, because you know, as actors on a daytime show, especially how quick we work now, and playing two of the people who work a great deal, we don't tell one show a week and then have a 3-month hiatus. We don't do a movie in 3 to 6 months and then have a month off in the Mediterranean on a yacht to, you know, recover. We tell it all year round. You know, I had 3 days of work before our vacation. I had 9 shows in those 3 days. And what we do is really intense, and our body doesn't know we're faking. So when you own Sonny's intensity and darkness, you really own it, and you live and breathe it. And these 3 weeks are important. Or having a storyline that may be a Sonny break for 6-7 months is a gift to you.
Yeah, I agree with that. But it's also it's because I've never played on the show anything but Sonny. I'm just used to that thing. Now I've had 8 months of playing this relaxed, fun, you know, thing, and now I go, well,
but that would be interesting, I think. You know, when Sonny does come back, because we have to assume he's going to. I mean, like, what's the point if you don't? And he's always going to have a part of Mike with him.
Yeah, there could be that. Yeah.
No, but Mike's experiences are then become Sonny's, and so that's an interesting journey for the character of Sonny to be like, now with every decision he makes, he's like, I know a different world. Like I things aren't so black and white. Maybe, I don't know. It's just an interesting.
No,
way.
it would be if they could write it. You know, I think it's just too difficult for an actor to just bring that if it's not kind of on the page.
For sure, it has to be a discussion.
But it is a cool thing.
It is cool.
All right, let's get out of GH.
Okay.
I
want to say something on my side of that as well.
Okay.
You know, a lot of people are not kindly freaking out about the Carly Jason thing, and it's really. I have to say, I did a scene the other day where when Steve and I were having scenes in Sonny's kitchen with the Moss, and it was a really great moment where after the scene was over, I stopped and I told Steve, I said, that was such an incredible scene. I felt the character of Sonny in this room, even though he wasn't here. Like playing that he's still a part of every decision that we're making is so incredible. Right. And that these two are making a decision based on strategic move for the family, not that they're falling in love. And I think that's really crucial because it still keeps Sonny alive in their relationship, which is a story I love telling, you know.
Right. And then once Sonny, I don't know how they're going to write it, but once Sonny comes back and all hell's going to break loose. So, because, you know, like my wife says.
And poor Cynthia.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't.
Because she's the nicest human being on the planet, and I have a feeling I'm going to have to yell at her a lot. Or Carly, you know.
Well, not only that.
The beating she's taken?
The beating she's taken with me, it's like, I mean, I don't understand her. It's not fair. But anyway, that's another thing.
You know, I mean.
But we're going to have great stuff
100%.
when we come back.
With Cynthia as well, who is just incredible. I'm a huge fan.
I'm a huge fan, too.
I know. I love Cynthia.
I
love watching it. Like, it's my other thing about the show is that I like watching you do what you do, you know, like whether it's Sonny or not, but like watching you. I remember I was watching a scene, I think one of the first times you and Cynthia had to kiss, and I was like, I was on set, and because I was shooting next, and I walk upstairs, and I'm like, that was so sweet.
It's a good energy.
It's just being someone who loves daytime, that this is the storyline that's happening. You kind of want to fall in love with both sides because that's the pool.
Look, I will say how you're feeling now is starting to kind of happen.
Right. Well, people would stop FFing and watch. That's the problem. I have the same problem. You can ask Wes. I do the same thing. If things get stressful, I like to fast forward. The FF button has destroyed us because, you know, the journey that we take you on from taking two people that you'd never want together, but if you watch instead of, I mean, how many people go, I FF through their scenes? I'm like, well, there you go. You're losing what might be interesting. Storytelling. And just because it's boom, not what I want, I don't care, I FF. It's
exactly.
Like, and I understand it because I do it too, but only when it comes to stressful things because I don't like stress. But Yeah, I don't
watch a lot of TV.
Like when Nina was almost going to get caught by the guy and she was stealing the information,
Yeah.
you know, I was like, oh my God, I can't watch that. And I knew what happened. So.
All right, let's
okay.
Can we talk about
yes.
I want to talk about your divorce.
Okay.
Because we had great talks about that.
Yeah.
And how difficult it was.
It was hard.
And you were very open with me about it. What's the toughest part?
Oh, the kids part?
Yeah.
Really hard. And letting go. The toughest part ends up being the most beautiful part, right? Letting go of what you think a family should look like, and then accepting that you can still be a family, but it doesn't have to be man and wife and how the traditional family is supposed to look. And trying to force that. It was gonna stay. I was gonna force it no matter what, and to where it was gonna kill me, and it almost did. And then when I finally let go and stopped running from the pain and witnessed what was happening and accepted it, then it all started to fall into place.
Now, do you think, I mean, this is it's an obvious question, but you're going to give me an obvious answer. Without kids, it would have been just easier.
Oh, yeah.
Because that expectation for your kids makes it that much harder.
Oh, well, yeah. And well, when it's first happening and you're hurt and you don't want to see the other person, right? Because when you see the other person, you see pain.
Yeah.
And then you have to see the other person because you have to swap the kids. Then you're like, well, if I didn't have the kids with you, I wouldn't have to swap them, you know?
Right.
Yeah. And that's all the early on initial feelings that are, I think, the superficial anger, resentment, blame, all the stuff that doesn't really matter.
In the beginning, did you try to keep it from the kid, or were you?
No, there really wasn't keeping it. I'm not good at. I was a very different person. I wore my feelings. It was about me, my emotion, what I wanted. How could you do it to me? I was very much in a victim state of mind, and I had to learn to let that go. And realize that didn't serve me or them, and it was only going to keep me on the hamster wheel of pain.
Yeah.
Until I could say, okay, I'm not a victim. Every choice I've ever made in my life has brought me to this moment. Take responsibility for where you stand, and then let's move forward. But boy, that took a lot. It took a lot of work.
How long is a lot?
Well, I was relentless.
I was there.
But I was relentless in my search for, why is this happening to me? There has to be a meaning. And at work, I was really great. No one ever knew anything was really happening. And because, I was raised in a family where you had to be perfect and everything's perfect and it has to look great and don't ever tell anyone your business. All that, it all has to look great no matter what's happening behind the scenes. And I'm a really happy, joyful person. So when I was sad and upset and just angry and resentful, underneath all of that, I still was like, but what about happy me? Like, my home base inside is joy, is really just excitement and joy. And so when I had all that pain going on, I didn't know what to do with it. And it just didn't make sense to me. And then, of course, divorce made no sense. And anything my ex-husband was saying that he needed or wanted, might have been, I wasn't listening. No, you can't leave. You have to do it. We have to fix it. Force it, force it, force it. And even when I was agreeing to separation and going through the motions of like being a separated woman, inside I was just waiting for him to like come to terms with it and come back. Wow. Family has to be put back together. And I remember, and I was going to meditation retreats. I was doing
Tim Robbins.
Then I would Tony Robbins. And I was getting all this information and learning it. And at first I was only really going to these places to then go back to my ex-husband and see, I'm fixed. I'm great. Am I good enough to be taken back now?
Wow.
Like that was this desperation to be because so much of my self-worth was wrapped up in being this pairing with him, married, being someone who wanted to marry me. Like when he asked me to marry him in 1995, I couldn't believe that somebody would want to marry me. The low self-esteem I had, I only was taught to be pretty, and that was really it. What do I want? What is a dream I have? Those were never questions that mattered, or, wow. What do I like? I didn't know. You tell me. Tell me what to like. I don't know. A man had to want me, desire me, and love me, and tell me who I was supposed to be.
Really?
But you'd never know that about me because I'm a fighter. Because, everyone has their place in home, right? Yeah. And to survive in my household, in the area I grew up in, I was the fighter. I was like, argue, debate, and well, there really was no debate in my household, but yeah. And so when it all started to crumble, it was like watching a 5-year-old child lose her mind at times, like a severe temper tantrum, but as an adult woman.
Damn.
And so I had to die. That version of me had to die for me to be reborn as who I am now.
Did you go through a lot of depression?
I didn't go through a lot of depression. I stayed in that place, pissed off, angry. If anyone tried to talk me out of it, you just need to, it was boom, I would come at them. Like, don't you tell me.
Oh, shit.
Anyone that I let in, very much aggressive, very angry. And then I somehow picked up this book called Love Warrior by Glennon Doyle. And it broke my heart open. I sat and read this book and wept at times. And basically that book started me on the journey to allow myself to cry and allow myself to mourn. Mm. And she says, I'm probably jacking up the what she said, but grief is the receipt that I paid the price, that I loved. Mm. And I was like, oh, so this hurts so much because I loved so much.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize it was okay for me to cry and be in pain. I'm fine. Oh, everything's fine. We're going to put it back together. And let's just be clear, behind closed doors, I was evil to my ex. I was like berating him. How dare you ruin a family? It wasn't like I was saying, oh, this is a beautiful world.
And what would he say?
Back? Get away from me. You're being insane. Really? Because he didn't have the tools to understand what I was doing either. Like I met my ex-husband when I was 14 years old.
Oh.
He had just turned 16. My first date ever was with him. He picked me up and I went to watch him skateboard in like a drain tunnel with a whole bunch of his friends who I had played spin the bottle with in elementary school. And they were all like in our wedding when we got married. Wow. 3 months, 3 months after he proposed. So I wasn't with him the whole time from, 14 on, but I mean, so that relationship was established when I was really young and had the tools of a 14-year-old really. So this book I read called Love Warrior just gave me everything that Glennon went through in this book. I went through, like the anger, I remember she had, God, at times I wish he were dead. And people were like, how could you say that? And she's like, well, because then I don't have to see him again. It doesn't have to hurt.
Yeah,
no, you don't really wish that person's death. It's just you want to remove the pain. And just seeing those words on the paper was like, yes, it gave me permission. And it broke me over. Sometimes I'd have to put the book away because I just kept crying and crying and crying, and it was amazing.
But crying was probably a way of relief.
Oh, well, and she says tears is our sacred baptism.
Yeah.
Crying should be celebrated. Not, I mean, gosh, look how much Carly cries. And they were so separate, too. So I didn't bring, and I was working all the time at this time going on, and which was a gift. A part of me thinks I should have been I should have gone somewhere for like a month to really heal because. Sure. I really was broken, and it was a death. And now I am so different. But that started the journey. And I tell you, the moment I realized I was free, it was April 2017, probably 3 weeks before I ran into Wes.
Oh.
I took my kids on a spring break, and my ex-husband said, "I want to come down for one of the days." And I was like, okay. And so, and of course I was like, okay, still playing. And we're going like 3 years.
Wow.
3 years after the separation, but still that like, maybe. And of course those moments and feelings and thoughts were getting further and further away, but it's still there. And during this time, I had read this great other quote. I became obsessed with Glennon Doyle because I felt that, and she was one of a million books I've read to help me through this process. But again, it was the permission. And every quote, every Instagram post I would read from her, I was like, oh my God, I get it now. Like, I just kept saying, what's wrong with me? I must be pathetic. There was so much self-loathing and shame. I was just constantly beating myself. And when I would read her posts on Instagram or her book, it just brought me back to, there's nothing wrong with me. It's okay for people to want to live a different life, right?
Right.
And so John ended up coming down for this break, and we're hanging out and doing things. And I had gotten I had posted something about Glennon on my Instagram feed, and she responded, "Oh my God, Carly likes me." And I was like, like fangirling like crazy. And I'm like, "Carly loves you." And so John was there, and he's like, what's going on? I was like, oh my gosh. So this woman, Glennon Doyle, and I'm telling him all about her and her book, and she so saved my life. And I look up, and he's looking at me like I have 3 heads. And he's like, and right then I was like, oh my God, he's not my person.
He doesn't get
he didn't understand. And that's okay. It's not his.
Yeah.
And like that, I was free. When I started really standing in my excitement and things that were interesting to me, and finding this new path of who I am. And I looked up at this person, and then the first time it wasn't about trying to get him to want love or like. I realized it's okay for it not to be. And like, I mean, and it took 3 years. It took 3 years.
But it's amazing that it had to take all this to see that. And he's probably done that how many times in the past where he looked at you like,
oh yeah, for sure.
And you just been like,
well, I was so blinded with the pain,
right.
and listen to me, and me.
Right.
And in this time, I was so excited, like, oh my God, this woman's amazing, incredible. I'm like, you're not my person, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And it was incredible, and it just started. Then I just started the reading and more meditation retreats, and more into what am I curious about? What do I like? Who am I? And that just started this incredible journey.
Then you met Wes?
Well, 3 weeks later, I bumped into Wes at an Emmy party. And that was it. I mean, and I'm so glad it happened that way because, my life didn't get, I wasn't able to let go of my ex because of Wes. I would have never wanted that because that's not really a thing. And then I met Wes 3 weeks later. And even that's been an incredible journey, because he's here's a bachelor. And I was married and raised 2 kids. I was married for 17 years, 2 totally different lifestyles. And now slowly bringing him into the family where I was married. And the ex-husband is still very much a part of.
Do they get together?
Well, that's what I was saying. Like, when you think about this, like, person that I was before, and all the pain and holding on. I mean, think of, who was it? Brenda hanging on to you?
Yeah.
Like
my legs.
That was me. Right. And John's like trying to,
really?
I was that desperate to keep my family together. And then now he's still in my family. My daughter graduated college. That's for amazing. 4 days. We rented a condo and we were all 4 together. Well, it was more than 4 of us. It was my daughter, her boyfriend, my son, his girlfriend, and me and Wes and John. I mean, we're making breakfast together. Every dinner was together.
Wow.
We're throwing party. I mean, when I tell you we're making coffee, John, coffee's ready, setting up for my daughter's party. John and Wes are out there building things together. When I tell you, we're a family. It's just shifted positions.
But see, the beauty of this...
or identities. It doesn't have to look like this certain way. And when you get your ego out of it, and you love someone enough to go, what do you want?
Right.
I wasn't listening to John.
Yeah.
And whatever he wanted was what he wanted. But if it wasn't the setup we had going, that's got to be okay. Not that it's not going to be painful. Not that it's not going to hurt. However, you got to love someone enough to say, I want you to have the life. We get one shot at this.
Yeah.
I want you to have the life that you want. And if we can make it happen together, great. But if not, you should have the life you want.
Well, the beauty of it is that no matter what you went through, and it's what I talk about a lot is, and I've been there a lot, where you just don't believe you can go on.
Yeah.
Okay? But the reality is, look at the ending of your movie that you just had.
Mm-hmm. And I've never been happier or honest.
Right.
And
but
authentic like this.
We don't, when we're in that hell, we never think that that's going to happen. But you know what? No. It always does happen. I've said how many times?
Well, they say the only way out is through.
Yes.
And the only way through is in.
Right.
You've got to get quiet. And you go into meditation and you're in it for 2 minutes and you start sobbing, and that's okay. Those were 2 minutes you didn't do the day before.
That's right.
And it's just, it doesn't have to be a big sweeping thing. And sometimes it's 5 steps forwards and 3 steps backwards.
Yes.
Like sometimes it is. And that's okay, because life's a dance.
People who are out there who are thinking they can't go on, they're depressed and whatever they have. When I
was in my sadness that just lasted, I kept thinking, is this ever going to stop hurting? And I never wanted to end it like my life. There were times I didn't want to wake up just because I didn't want it. The second I woke up, it was that pain.
Yeah.
And so I read another incredible author, Elizabeth Gilbert. She talked about a happiness jar. And that every night before you go to bed, you get this like big mason jar or whatever. Some people had like a flower thing, or, a vase. And I had a big mason jar and Post-its with a pen. And every night before I went to bed, I'd write down 3 things. Well, I think the first time it was one thing that made me happy that day. Could have been like seeing a pretty flower, the smell of the leaves in fall, or meeting a new friend. But one thing. And I remember being like, so angry and pissed, especially because during my daytime when I would see people at work or picking the kids up from school, I was so fake and everything was so fine that when I got home, it was like, it was all there. And one thing for like 3 weeks and then turned into 3 things and 2 things. And when I tell you that simple act changed my life. Look at these things you have to be grateful about. Sometimes it was a sunrise.
Yeah.
Sometimes it was not, and it was that little act starting me on.
Really?
Find one thing that was beautiful today, that brought you happiness in some way. And it just started cracking my heart open in that and then I would sit outside and I'm like, gosh, when daytime goes to bed and nighttime wakes up, it's like a symphony outside. And I found nature to be
I love nature.
An incredible gift to me. And then you read the book, The 4 Agreements. I don't know if you've read that. It's incredible.
I only read nothing general about it. Yeah.
Well, it's a really great book. I know. I mean, it was really hard for me to put down. I understand. I heard the lead guy's pretty hot.
Yeah, he's hot.
Yeah, lead character.
I called you that during a tough time during the pandemic. We talked, and you sent me a guy named David G.
Yeah, my meditation teacher.
David G. Hi.
He's got the best voice, doesn't
great.
He?
But the problem is when you let I'll speak for myself. When you're in, like, I call the gears, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. When you're in 5th gear, which was what I was during the pandemic, I listened to him. Nothing helped. Nothing. Working out, doing nothing. I had to get medicated. I had to get professional help, right?
I was medicated at one point.
Yeah. But now I listen to him. He's the greatest.
Yeah.
I'm like this.
Well, you were in 5th gear, right?
Yeah, yeah,
like,
not yeah.
Right. So you could have probably used both of it at the time.
I couldn't. Nothing was working.
Right.
But now I love David G, and I love his voice. I love the music he has, and I cry like a baby.
He's incredible.
And it's just beautiful. But the thing is, when you're that
far gone, you should have him on State of Mind. He would love it.
Oh, he would?
Yeah. Send him a private message on Instagram.
I'd have him
I'll connect you to.
Yeah, because
he's a beautiful man.
I listen to him. Yeah. I do it like once, 2, 3 times.
He just got back from San Francisco, training police officers with mindfulness and meditation.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Isn't that incredible?
I'd love to. Yeah. So, obviously, at that point, you gotta get help.
100%. I was on anti.
What were you on?
Zoloft.
Yeah.
For 9 months.
9 months.
It was way back at the beginning of my separation, because I needed a pause before a reaction. It was definitely.
Did it help?
Yeah, we knew it was temporary. And I was really afraid to go off of it because.
And just so we're clear here, as far as medication and whatnot, and we're not professionals.
No, I'm just telling you what helped me at the time from a doctor, a psychiatrist, and a psychotherapist.
Zola.
Yes, and it was 9 months back in, I think, 2014. 2014 for about 9 months, and it just gave me a pause before I reacted.
Yeah.
And I needed it. I was raised in a household where cry and I'll give you something to cry about, and there was no discussion. It was 0 to 100 of slamming your fist on the table, or it was very
tough. Yeah,
it was tough. It was very generational.
Were you? Was it abusive?
You would call it abuse now, but then if you got spanked with a belt, it was normal. Especially, on the East Coast. Your mom was a coal miner's daughter. My dad was a Southern Baptist minister's son, and they were 16 and 18 when they got married.
But it does affect you.
100%.
But maybe not your brother.
You have to. It affects everybody. You have to undo.
But not as much. There's levels of being affected. Like my brother and I went through. Actually, he went through worse. Okay, of abuse, whatever. I know it affects. He says it doesn't, and I know. And
when I say it wasn't, I'm not saying it wasn't abuse, but you couldn't have done anything about it then, right? It wasn't labeled abuse.
It was and
it was allowed.
The difference is, I think, when it's abuse is when you're doing something with anger and you can't stop. That's abuse.
Yeah, I remember my dad taking me, and this was normal at the time. The principal was like, "Yes, sir." In kindergarten, my dad took me to school and said, "Now, if she gets out of line, you beat her ass." And the principal was like, it was not a big deal for a principal to spank a child.
Wow.
But especially to be a young girl.
Yeah.
To then have another man that you don't even know have the permission to do what he wanted physically to you, not sexually, but physically.
Yeah.
It's odd, but like I said, it was a very generational thing. So I come from that. So when I came up scrapping and fighting, it was like, and I wasn't a very scrappy person. I mean, I was very happy, fun. I was a cheerleader, like really. But if I had to get into it or argue, it was quick. I didn't really have any tools on discussions, communication. There was none of those really. I didn't have those tools at the time.
Let's go to the last topic. Your parents died.
Yes, 2 years ago.
How does that?
How was it?
I don't know.
Okay, well, my mom was suffering with emphysema for a long time. My dad was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer a long time ago and was able to have a surgery and survive it, but never really recovered from the chemotherapy and radiation. It just always seemed to be something. And he ended up dying of cirrhosis of the liver, and he didn't drink. Wow. It was very odd. I haven't publicly talked about this. I've told a few people. My mom's death was fascinating. she died October 24th. And a couple times before October, I'd flown home thinking, oh, this is it, because she was really struggling at the end. And we were able to get her back going and always had a great time. Like once we got her feeling okay and we could like make her eat food and watch some Law and Order and I could rub lotion on her feet and we could make fun of her for all the funny things, then everything was good. And then I was called home and I was at a fan event. And I woke up that morning and was like, got the phone call, you got to come to the hospital, this is it. And so I just had to leave straight from there. And I think I was in Raleigh, I might have been. So it was a really quick flight to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. And I remember as the plane was landing, I was hoping it was over before I got there so I didn't have to be a part of it. I was so afraid to watch her die. And it was the biggest blessing in my life. I spent the next 4 days sleeping on the floor next to her bed, giving her every 4 hours her morphine. I got to have this incredible moment where I was rubbing lotion on her legs. And my mom was a very vain woman because being beautiful was important to her. And she was so ashamed. And she had this oxygen mask on. And she pointed to her feet and was like she was shamed. And I was like, these legs? And I went on to tell this story about the legs, her legs and the journey of her legs and the feet and how beautiful these legs have carried her whole life and had babies and raised grandchildren. And she's just laying there. She couldn't talk really, and tears streaming down her face with this oxygen mask on. And then she's hitting me because if she cries, she coughs and she can't breathe. And we're trying not to laugh. And then I was there when the hospice people came to us and said, you know, she'll eventually die, but you need to remove the mask. It's an option because it's basically the only thing keeping her alive. And I look at my dad, who's a mess and not well either. My sister was just a mess. And my brother was like, no way. And I knew right then, I'm like, you're going to have to take the mask off. And the hospice can't do it because they're not legally allowed to. They're angels from heaven, by the way. The most incredible human beings. And so everyone got to go say goodbye and kiss her forehead. And then I had to go take the breathing mask off my mom. And that was, I actually went into like a Carly mode. I thought, you're an actor. You can do this. Just become someone else in the moment. And I just went over there and I unstrapped everything. And my biggest fear is that she was going to be gasping for breath. And that was all of our biggest fear, was that and that was not at all what happened. It was a very peaceful, beautiful moment. But taking that mask off her face, I released her. She could have been alive for another 4 days of the body shutting down and awful things that I would never know if she could understand. And I was able to remove the mask and watch her just lay there and slowly go.
Wow.
And she never looked more beautiful.
You saw
more
like
peaceful.
peace.
I have a photo to this day, and it was one of the most beautiful photos of my mother. It was right after the moment where she took her last breath. And she was just glowing. And I hadn't seen her look that peaceful in a couple years.
Wow.
And then 2 months later, I got the phone call that my dad, and that was another incredible experience. I got there and he was sleeping and he barely kind of recognized me. The last time I was with him before he died, I had to leave, and he looked at me and he said, Laura, it's going to hurt so bad with your mom being gone. We were married 56 years. And I said, yeah, you don't get to have all that goodness and love without it hurting when they're gone, you know. What a gift that you had that. And here we are 2 months later, he's in bed, and December 29th, and he's in a hospice home. And it was my brother and me, Wes, and my sister. And Jeff was sitting there, and it was getting closer and closer to, you know, they can tell by the body and how it's happening, how much time so you're not like not present. And they were giving him morphine to relax him. And he all of a sudden opened his eyes and he's looking at my brother. And I'm like, Jeff, because Jeff was talking to us, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And we're like, hey. And he's looking at my brother, and he sits up, and he's looking through my brother, and his face lights up, and he dies.
Wow.
Like that oh wow story you always hear about Steve Jobs. My dad looked through my brother, saw something, and he had this like light of joy on his face and took his last breath.
Wow.
That I just got up and walked out of the room because I was kind of done then. It was both parents, 2 months apart. It was really, and I was the one that kind of wrote the obituaries, went to the funeral homes. I did kind of most of the work on, in that way. My brother did other things. My sister did other things, but it was like, I went right into, okay, how do we get it done? But it was a gift to be there when they transitioned. It's so hard. It's crazy to go through it. The biggest fear was being there, and it turns out to be the biggest gift, you know, especially with my mom, being the one that slept on the floor next to her every night.
Yeah.
It's not the club we want to join, but it's the one we always will. Yeah. We're not getting out of this experience without burying our parents, you know, at some point.
Yeah, you know, that's a beautiful, beautiful story. It's like a great monologue.
You know, I was really having a hard time after my mom died because there was a lot of stuff going on. My dad struggling with the loss of her. Everybody, you know, it was just a lot of chaos, it seems like, you know. And I had to go to the funeral home, and I went by myself to talk to this man about my mom's burial, or cremation. She wanted to be cremated. And so I'm sitting there, and you're thinking it's the worst day. This is where I say, you know, life can be shitty or life's great. It's really your choice, how you look, how you choose to see it, right? And you know, I always say things like that. I'm sitting here in this moment, and this guy sitting across from me is just going on and on about, why do you live in California? He's talking politics to me. We couldn't disagree more. He's talking about all this stuff, California, how hot it is. I mean, this guy's going on and on and on, and here I am trying to pick out a box that my mom is going to be cremated in. Like, and at one point, I just started laughing because I thought, you are the gift. You are the gift to make me, to distract me from being so caught up in how awful this could be. Or I could just sit here and laugh at the fact that you were the man that, by the end of it, he wanted my autograph, he wanted pictures with me. It was like amazing. But I remember it started out with me wanting to get angry, and I just sat there cracking up laughing, going, of course. Thank you for this man, because instead of it being this heart-wrenching,
I get you.
It became a distraction that made me laugh.
Distractions are great.
Yes.
During these periods. So I just want to say to everybody who was in there, I want to thank Laura for her vulnerability, being brave, open, everything. She had I guess if this were a movie, she'd win an Oscar because she had everything going here.
Aww.
You know, and it was cool. It was up and down. It was good. It was deep. It was everything. So,
I'm grateful. Thank you so much for having me.
No, it's great. It's going to help a lot. You know, the love you're going to get is overwhelming on this. I can just tell you that. All right. The State of Mind. If you like what you see, please subscribe. And you know, I kind of just say what comes out of me in the beginning, which is the way I do this. So subscribe, because by subscribing, you will see more people like the individual I'm going to interview. He is what can I say? He started out on Guiding Light, and he skyrocketed, man. Like probably no other daytime actor. I know there's been a lot of actors on daytime that have done movies and things like that, but this guy is a great actor, great guy, and his career is unbelievable coming from daytime. And I literally at 30, 25, I would have cut my right arm to be where he's at. And he was in one of my favorite series of all time. I don't watch TV or movies, especially now. I'm getting too old. But he was in Kingdom, which was amazing. My whole family watched it. He's done The Avengers. He's done Captain America. He's done a ton of stuff. So enough ass kissing, but he deserves it. And we're gonna get deep today. I can just feel it in my bones. And if I start crying, I'm already emotional. That's all right. Men cry, man. Yeah. That's just the way it works. How you doing, Frank?
I'm doing great, man. And you're right. First of all, thank you for those kind words. And you're right, men cry.
Yeah.
Period.
Well, that's one of my things why I started State of Mind, and I knew that I wasn't going to hold anything back because I wanted everybody to know that no matter how tough you look or how cool you think you are, I was brought up that crying was weak.
Right.
I'm Spanish, you're Italian.
Same thing.
And it almost seemed like when I had my first nervous breakdown and I was in a mental hospital, that all that holding back, crying, it came out while I was on the bed there.
Right.
It was just all I did was cry, man.
Right.
All I did was cry. So what I like, and I just looking you up, and you feel the same way. Cry, men have to cry. What do you think?
And cry often.
Yes.
You know, I got to tell you, I have my 3 sons, and my youngest son, I could see it already. He's 15. He's gorgeous, but he's a little small, right? He thinks he's small because his friends are all ridiculously tall. Beautiful kid, and he gets frustrated because he's not big or he's not as strong, and I could see him, and I go, what? He goes, I just don't want to cry. I go, why? He goes, I just don't want to. I go, cry.
Wow.
Cry. Just cry. Your body wants to cry. You want to cry.
Yeah.
It's for a reason.
Yeah.
Right? Your body tells you you're hungry for a reason, so you'll eat. It tells you to cry so you will purge this emotion.
Yes.
And because after we cry, what do we feel? We do feel a little bit better.
Yeah.
Right?
Of course.
And so, like I remember seeing you how many years ago coming out with what you were dealing with in a time where nobody did.
Nobody,
it.
no.
No one did.
No.
And it's hard to get, footing on that cause at a time when men were like, I don't want.
Yeah.
He's saying stuff. I don't.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about that.
Yeah.
That's how I feel.
Yeah.
I had a father like that. I had a father.
So you were brought up with that way also, where you got to be strong.
You got to be strong. And yet I had a father who suffered from chronic depression.
No.
And alcoholism. And he died from it, ultimately, but struggled with his emotions and what I thought, when I was younger was a bout of melancholia, but it wasn't. This guy was seriously depressed. And towards the end of his life, he was on, depression meds and was doing better,
Wow.
But again, came from an Italian immigrant household, a lot of boys. You had to be tough, growing up in the city. You just had to be, in the Bronx. And
Yeah.
You had to be tough.
And don't you think that, now that we're talking about it, because I believe this, that kind of way of upbringing and stress and not letting it out is going to cause the depression.
Oh, my God. And exacerbate
right?
all the bad things about depression.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And you're so alone. People who suffer from depression and are afraid to talk about it, specifically men, because my experience has been specifically 99% with men.
I know.
The results are devastating. And I got to tell you, I've experienced, as I've told you earlier, I've experienced this past year, 2 people who took their own lives who could not cope. And
what did each of them pass away from?
they both died from gunshot wounds to the head. Okay? One of them was a vocal, very prominent manager, came from a very prominent family in Hollywood, Chris Uvain. His brother's Kevin Uvain, Stephen Uvain. Kevin is one of the partners of CAA. Had all the help in the world, had all the money, had success. He had a great bunch of clients, had a great new wife, talked about his depression, was trying to find the right meds. Wasn't enough, man. Do you know? It wasn't enough. My cousin, who I grew up with as a brother, was kind of a happy-go-lucky guy. Got divorced from his wife. She moved to Montana. He was struggling with going back and forth. Came to my house on a Thursday. We chatted about what I thought he should do as far as where he should live, and he wanted my opinion because we were always together. And then he drove home and saw his kids and shot himself in the head with his kids in the house. By the way, so out of character. Now, Chris was one thing because I could say, well, I can kind of understand. He was struggling. Years, right?
Yeah.
And so it was everything to help him, But what was good about Chris was he was vocal about his condition and how he could help others with it. My cousin was silent about it. And
both depression.
So that's kind of kicked me into high gear as far as I've gotten older now, and I'm encroaching on 60, I'm 57 years old, right? Acting's great. It's been a great way to make a living. It's been a great way to create a lifestyle for myself and for my family and to meet great people. But I feel like someone or something up above has put this in my face because this is what my next chapter in life should be about, is helping people.
Well, then, Frank, I'm here.
Yeah.
And that's all I've been doing for 30 years.
I know you have. And everybody needs, it has to be the right time. And when you reached out to me, you've reached out to me a couple of times, and I've always got my head and I'm dancing at 30 weddings at once, as my mother used to say. But when you reached out this time, I was like, it's time for me to go and talk to him because he's probably more than any celebrity, anybody with a platform has been doing this so long.
Especially as a man.
Yes.
I think Patty Duke was the main,
Right.
But when I did Oprah, there was no man talking about it.
Ever.
And now bipolar is the new crazy.
I know.
You're bipolar.
I know.
You're crazy.
Yeah.
I'm here for it if you want to. Depression, it's good that we're going to talk I didn't know this was going to start this way.
Me either.
But this is great. I just go where it takes me.
Yeah.
Depression, because I talk a lot about bipolar and I talk a lot about anxiety. Because anxiety literally almost took me during the pandemic.
That's what it was, the anxiety.
Yeah.
During pandemic.
Yeah, it was.
And you know what it is, right?
I knew exactly what let me tell you something about. Now, I've never obviously killed myself, but I've had I'll say it again because I say it quite often. It's the unbearable amount of pain that you can't go another minute. That's what depression is.
Right.
But the anxiety for me is my dad. My dad passed away. Jesus, hold on.
I got you. I know that pain.
God damn. Yeah, my dad used to say to me, "What, Mauricio?" And he said it to me like 50 times, man. He said, "Mauricio, what is the difference between anxiety and depression?" And I'm saying, "Dad, you asked me this 30 times already." He goes, "Yeah, I know, I want to know." I said, "All right, I'll tell you again. It's hard to, they're both really bad.
Right.
But I believe anxiety's a little worse because depression is heavy for me.
Right.
Obviously, for some people it's different. depression is heavy. You don't want to get out of bed. I say bed is your quicksand. You don't want to eat. You don't want to do anything.
Despondent.
Yeah, and you just can't go on like. But anxiety is like something like Freddy Krueger in your mind. And when I'll say, I talk about it so much on State of Mind. This last time during the pandemic, Paula was there. You know, she always saves me. But I was fucking shaking, dude. And I'm thinking, oh no, that's never happened to me. I've had 3 nervous breakdowns.
So the manifestation into the physical.
And I said, Paula, what the hell is this? And Paula's like, you're going to be all right, honey. Because that's what she always says. Right. And I'm like, what do you mean I'm going to be all right? But I'm shaking. I'd lay down. I'm still shaking like a fish. And I said, and then it was 4 months of hell.
4 months?
4 months where I'm thinking, I don't want to do it with a gun because it's too messy. And I don't want my family to see that. And I don't want to take pills just in case I survive. I'll be the guy who's attempted suicide and survived.
Correct.
So I would do a walk around my property, and there was a big tree there, and I would be crying, walking around, and I would see this tree, and I would figure out when am I going to put that rope there.
And let me ask you a question, because it's an interesting study, because, you know, after these 2 guys shot themselves in the head, and I need to verbalize that often.
Yeah.
I often would think and talk to my brothers and cousins and say, oh, what was he thinking? What was so bad? Nothing had changed. There was so I ask you, because now you're a person who's kind of come to the precipice of it. What had changed in the 4 months that you were feeling so bad? Had anything happened or changed to trigger that?
Oh, yeah.
It did.
Well, it was very simple for that one. And then there's depression. Okay. This also, because we're very, it's the thoughts that kill you. That's, you know that.
Oh, I can talk to you about thoughts and anxiety and the catastrophic, catastrophic future and all those things.
One time when I had really bad depression, I had these thoughts also. It was just because I produced a movie. I had people come to see it. 500 people came. And I thought everybody hated me and hated the movie. And maybe half did.
Wait, but that's my life. What are you talking about? What's the problem with that?
No, but Frank, I know, but that triggered depression.
Right.
Ridiculous. In the pandemic, what triggered it was I was promoting my book, New York Times bestseller. I just had to put that out there.
Yes, you do.
And I was going to tour New York. They said, ain't happening because it's the end of the world. That's what I thought in my head.
Right.
And my mom and dad moved out of my home. That hurt me. And they were going to shut down GH. I've never stopped working at GH for 30 years. So I'm done. I felt a rush of coldness in my body. And that night is when I started shaking. So it's those triggers. It doesn't just happen. It's stress.
Of course, but then what our thoughts do.
Oh,
I talk to people. Our thoughts can be so poisonous. Is our thoughts take us to a place that doesn't yet exist, but it could in our minds, right?
Right.
And then we convince ourselves that's where we're going. Right. I'm going to unemployment. I'm never going to see my parents again. I'm not going to work. Whatever else is, and that's what you think. That's what your reality becomes.
Yeah.
When in turn, that's not really what's happening.
No.
Right? And it didn't happen, did it?
No.
So what you've created and what you've created for yourself is by yourself. It's not real.
Yeah.
And that's why thoughts can get out of control for people. And if you don't have an outlet for what happens, for me, I don't know what depression is. I can honestly tell you,
Really?
I've been depressed, I guess, like when my mother dropped dead suddenly when I was making a movie. I talked to her in the morning. She was dead at night. My mother was 17 years older than me. She was my life. We were best friends. She died suddenly. I had to go home and eulogize my mom. Sony shut the movie down for a few days. I flew back. My father, who was an alcoholic, drank himself to death.
Wow.
And then he died 3 weeks later. So in the course of a month, they both died. And I still wasn't I was sad.
Yeah.
But I was like, I got to keep going. am I going to do? I got to go.
Right.
I can't, you know. And then my wife filed for divorce. Again, I was like, all right. I was like Job in the Bible. If you know the story of Job.
Right.
And God took everything.
Yeah.
He wanted to see if you had any faith.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah.
I'm going to dig in here.
Right.
And I'm going to muscle through this. And I would have days of feeling down.
Yeah.
But always in the gym. Always 2 hours in the gym, sweating, moving around. Always had circulation in my body because I really feel like there's a connection. And always saw the brighter side of it, right? Wow. Whereas my father, who was chronically depressed, I'm surprised he lasted as long as he did. And my mother dying, he just couldn't handle it anymore. That was it. He was done. But I never had that. So I struggle sometimes with really understanding, and I'm obsessed with understanding now the grips of depression and how someone can feel so bad and despondent that they just simply don't want to live anymore.
Yeah.
If we're not talking about this on the daily, especially again, because I am one, especially men.
Yeah.
Who, unlike women, don't have the kind of community or outlets to, nowadays, specifically if you're a white man, nobody wants to hear your problems.
Right.
Right? You're a successful, wealthy, affluent celebrity.
Yes.
You shouldn't have any problems.
Right.
No, wrong.
Right.
Wrong.
Exactly.
Wrong. Do you know what I mean?
But why can't we have it like an AA? And we have people who we get together and we all get in there and just like AA and talk about mental health. Right. I've already talked to somebody about that. We could do that though.
I listen, and I think you'd fill the place up in 12 minutes. I mean, there are, and you're right. The pandemic did do something. It did change the consciousness of, I think, globally. And I talk to people now freely about everything that I'm feeling, or
good for
you. If I talk about my cousin, decided to leave this planet, I talk about it. I just did a press conference for this movie I did. I talked a lot about this.
Yeah.
And how important this is. And I'm getting more feedback, not from movies, but I'm getting feedback from talking with you, with people like you who are in this thing, and it's just kind of turned on a light bulb, and it's like, well, this is for a reason, and this reason has become my reason to kind of talk.
I think it's very important what you're saying, and this State of Mind audience, you'll see the kind of response you're going to get off this. It's unfreaking real. I mean, people who write me, who their son wouldn't get help and they were going to kill themselves, and now they know they're bipolar, and they know that they're not alone because they're watching us talk, and it makes it normal.
Yep.
And you talk about suicide, I talk about suicide. What I want to say, as far as suicide and whatnot, is what keeps you, I think God, and I've been talking about God quite a lot. I was scared to talk about God early on.
Right.
And we don't have to get into it.
Right.
But now I am. God, see, for me, in the worst possible times that I've been in, it's like God and the devil fighting each other. And most of the time, God wins.
Right.
But there's sometimes that the devil wins. And that's when you kill yourself.
Right.
But just this past 2 years, look what I've done in 2 years. And I wouldn't have done it, obviously, if I. So you have to. It will pass.
Right.
And there's a light at the end of that. Fucking tunnel.
That's listen,
right. Because you don't want to leave things on. It's so difficult. I know I want to talk about that, but we always have to let people know that you get through it.
Get through it,
and you take that right road.
Yeah.
Don't take the wrong road. Some people get through it, and they, like, if they're drinking and they go back to drinking, it's gonna get worse for you, brother.
Right.
But if you take the right road, God will give you gifts, and He rewards you for taking the right road and going through that punishment or suffering, however you want to call it.
Right, that's what it is. You're right. You're right about it will pass. I'm going to tell you something.
It always passes.
I recently got sent a couple of paragraphs of a book that is about people who survived suicide attempts.
Oh.
And every one of these people go on to say, "Thank God that it didn't work. I didn't do it because it passed."
That's right.
It passed.
That's right.
Right. It was a moment
Yes.
of I'm going to do this now or I'm never going to do it.
Right.
And I know for a fact my cousin, who was I know this guy as well as anybody in the world, and this guy, if somebody had walked in the bathroom and saw him and he put the gun down, it would have been okay. Or
right.
if I would have not let him leave my house that day, because he was debating on whether he should go back to Montana. I said, "Go see your kids. You need to see your kids. You haven't seen them in a couple of weeks." He called me once or twice on the way there, and he said, "Maybe I should turn around." I go, "Roy, go see your kids, and let's make a plan so you not coming here sleeping on my couch. Like, you're going to come back, and, you know, you." And I say, well, I know this guy. If the moment would have passed, he'd still be here.
Yes, but also, Frank, you have to understand, and I say this, I've said it, but I thought I would get in trouble for saying it. If you want to die, you will die.
Of course.
And no one should feel guilty because we're all going to try to do what they can to not have that person kill themselves.
Right.
But there's only so much we could do.
Right.
Every freaking morning I could have done it.
Exactly.
So,
and you thought about it.
Oh, not just morning, day, and night.
Right. I mean, so, but there was something in you that was like, I'm going to think about it, but I'm not doing this.
You know what happened to me is I have goats. I have Buddy the Goat. He's an Instagram star. And I have alpacas and stuff. And I'd go out with them, and they give me peace, and it's amazing, right?
Right.
Well, during this period, I went out one time, and I couldn't get any joy at all.
Right.
Nothing. So I said, okay, this is it. And I opened the door, and I thought about my family.
Right.
But at that point, I thought that I was a burden to them. So that makes it worse. Because when you think about family, you think you don't want to leave them, then you probably won't. But if you think you're a burden, you're getting close. And then I prayed to God, and I said, if I do this, then the people who follow me on State of Mind will think it's all right to do it.
Right.
And I changed.
I mean, what an interesting revelation that this thing that's caused you to create this thing
I know,
the thing
bro.
That's saving you from doing this thing. I mean, when you think about it, it's biblical.
Yeah.
You know?
And acting too. The thing that has made me the actor I am has made my life a mother.
Right.
Because it's tough.
Right.
I get into there, you
it's
be a
hard to get
method
out.
actor
Yeah,
and go in there, and my character's bipolar.
Right.
And so
I got to tell you, when I did the show Kingdom, and we did that for 4 years, you know, my character was also, you know, mentally challenged. I mean, he's bipolar and he's an alcoholic, and, you know, I went deep, you know, deep.
You
to
always
the
go
point,
deep.
Yeah, but I'm deep to the point where I wanted to feel the effects of alcohol a lot because it was important to me, and so I would be drinking more wine than I should, and go to work with that shitty feeling, and this was the time when I became somebody else. And when my wife was living in New York and I was shooting the show in L.A., and she came to see me, which she didn't do enough, and she said, what are you doing? I'm like, what? What am I doing? I was aggressive.
Yeah.
What do you mean, what am I doing? I'm working. This is what I do. I got to do this. This is important to me. And she goes, Frank, yeah, we're all actors. I get it. She goes, but what are you doing to yourself? You're a different person.
yeah, yeah.
So you're right. It's
yeah.
like, you know, that's another thing, you know, where the mind goes, the body follows. So if we're all day thinking we're this character and this thing,
Absolutely,
your body's going to just react the same way.
Yeah. And Frank, you have to understand something, because, like I tell people, if you're born without mental illness, you should be kissing the ground.
Right.
It's
Right.
because for the last 2 years, I felt as good as I've ever felt my whole life. Do you know that I've had something ugly inside of me my whole life? But I just thought, that's who I am.
Right.
And now I'm bipolar, so that's what that is. No, it's gone.
Isn't that beautiful?
And you seem to have that kind of way about. Do you care what people think?
No.
God darn it.
Never.
That's the key, bro.
Never.
That's the key.
I never did, ever.
Not even young?
Never. Brother, I just did this movie, Lamborghini, and I did an Italian.
Right, Lamborghini.
I did an Italian accent, right? It's a big movie. Everybody's got Oscars on the movie except for me, but I had to do an accent. I'm Italian. I grew up with Italian people. I know how to do an Italian accent. They tore me apart, right? They did dumb critics. I'm like, I don't care what you say about my accent. It's like, I don't give a shit what you. I'm not doing it for them. But the audience loved the movie, right? So the people who are making the movie like it. I don't care about the critic.
Wow.
I don't care. I don't care. I never did. My mother used to get a kick out of me because I let things roll off my back. I don't let stuff from people, especially from people I don't know. I don't care it's none of my business what you think about me.
My God.
And I don't say that from a place of hubris. It's because I got a lot of other problems. I just never cared.
That is, because Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now.
Oh, I've read all his books.
Right, so have I.
Yeah.
If you're born like you are, wow. Because I think now I'm starting to figure something out about mental illness and bipolar and anxiety and depression. I'm going to look it up. I would say that the percentage of people that are mentally ill care about what people think, because that's what makes the thoughts.
Right.
Do you know when I'm in anxiety or whatever, I can't even put anything on Instagram because I'm scared. That's how terrible it is.
It's so interesting because for me, looking from the outside in at who you are, I would never think that was you.
Yeah.
You're like you are General. Like
right.
You're the guy. Like it was your show. It's like you're the guy. You're the gangster. You're the badass, man. Like, isn't that interesting? And so then you're like, well, I got to be the badass. Like I can't,
It seems one way.
Yeah.
But I've only stopped caring what people think. I'm at about 85, 90% now. And that's why I feel so great.
Feel good.
But you were born that way.
Listen,
Yeah,
I know. I giggled. I used to giggle. I never ever cared. I just and I got to tell you something. I try to instill this in my kids, especially my young one, because I could see him struggling. I'm like, if you care so much what all these people think about you, you're never gonna get to know who you are. You're never, because you're gonna try to manipulate yourself to make somebody else happy or somebody else like you. I said, that's not you.
That's amazing.
You have to like you. I said, look, we're not 6-footers in this family. I'm 5'10".
Right.
You're probably gonna be 5'10". Live with it. It's okay.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? I said, you love Tobey Maguire, you love Tom Holland. They're like 5'6". They're geniuses. They're brilliant. They're rich. They're successful. Al Pacino, who's I got to be friends with Al Pacino. I'm like, wow, he is little.
But Al Pacino seems like he's worried about what people think or not.
Yeah. But he's Al Pacino.
He's Al Pacino.
He's Al
right.
Pacino. But
what I'm trying to say is there's a correlation between people who, and I think I'm going to really get into that because
I think you're right. I mean, I think there's something to
mental illness and that.
Right.
My son, he don't care nothing, and that's Paula doesn't either. My wife, she's like you are.
My oldest son is the same way. He's like carefree. He's like,
and there's no mental illness. Here we go. There's 3 people in this house that don't care what people think, and there's no mental illness.
Yeah. I know. It's interesting too because I have my middle child, Liam, who's 18. Since he was 18 months old, he was diagnosed. He's on the spectrum, but he is ADHD, and cognitively he's fine. but he has some language processing things, and so it's in that kind of garbage pail term, the spectrum, right?
Yeah.
And I often say, I look at him, and I often say he's got happy dementia. Like, it doesn't register. None of the nonsense, which is nonsense, that we all seem to care about, registers with this kid.
Wow.
And he's got such a beautiful, angelic disposition, and I'm like, he doesn't care. So I think your aunt...
This is a big deal.
Yeah.
Because I can just tell you from myself what has happened to me in the last 2 years. And a lot has... I'd say 90% of it is that I've worked really hard at not caring what people think. I changed thoughts.
Which you can do.
You can do.
It's like any other exercise. And it takes a week, 3 weeks, 5 weeks to create that habit.
You can do
right?
that.
But you can do that.
Yeah.
You can do it with all your thoughts.
Yeah, I couldn't go to a supermarket without not wanting to talk. I'm talking to everybody now. I'm like my dad.
And but when you start to do that, I do it too. I talk to everybody.
Yeah,
I take a picture with everybody all day long, right?
Yeah.
I get such great satisfaction out of sharing that energy when people come up and see you. And it's 99.9% of the time, it's very positive and so instead of kind of shying away from it feeds you. And it's a good feeling.
But for 58 years, I didn't do it.
Right?
I didn't do it.
Yeah. But speaking of Eckhart Tolle, it doesn't matter 58 years.
Right.
Now.
That's it.
Is what matters.
Power now, right.
Not tomorrow, not yesterday.
Holy
it is now. It is now. You know, there's another great guy he's passed, Dr. Wayne Dyer. And he had a very interesting quote that always stuck with me. He's a brilliant guy. If you change the way you see the world you see will change. And when you think about it, it's a simple sentence, but you have to change the way you look at things. Yeah. And that's what you're talking about. You simply change the way you see things.
Yeah.
And then everything you see changes.
Yeah.
And it works. I mean, it sounds a little hokey and a little schmaltzy, but it works.
No.
You know.
And you can do it.
You can do it.
People may think that you can't change your thoughts. You don't have to change your thoughts, but
no, sometimes I do.
Let me be an even greater actor.
No, I know.
And this dude right here is a bad dude. I'm telling you. Let's talk about some physical shit.
Oh, that's my life. I mean, since I was a boy, 5 years old, 6 years old, wrestling and martial arts. I'm a martial artist. I've been boxing since I'm 11 years old, and I love fighting. I just love. I love what it takes. I love how the physicality. It's changed my acting career because once I started to work in films that required me to be physical is when people started to pay attention.
Yeah.
It just came naturally. It's like a dance, it's like being a dancer and you do a movie, all of a sudden you're Fred Astaire. And so everybody wants you to do this thing, right? And I have to tell you, I think a lot of the reason why I do keep myself in a pretty solid mental health state is because I work out. I train.
Very true.
I really do. And my body is always in tuned, right?
Yeah.
I'm never lacking.
Yeah.
And if I do have a down day, I stay at the gym a little bit longer. And the great thing about things like boxing, repetitive motion creates a Zen state. That's why you see these Buddhists doing the stone raking, and it's constant repetitive motion, and you see and it puts you in you stop thinking.
Yeah.
So when you have to concentrate on what you're doing, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, all of a sudden there's no more thoughts in your head.
Yeah, yeah. That's the thing.
You're only thinking about 1, 2, 3.
Thinking about,
So now for 2 hours I'm not thinking.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm reacting, I'm boxing, I'm not thinking about anything. I stopped working out and I'm reinvigorated emotionally.
Right.
Because all of that has gone away.
Yeah.
And what we tend to realize is everything we were thinking about. Unless, look, I have a son who for a long time I didn't know which way he was going. You're only as happy as your least happy child. So that's a real thing to be worried about.
Yeah.
I don't know where my son's future is going to be. So you're concerned about that, right? most other stuff. Have you ever been homeless?
No.
Has your kid ever not had a meal?
No.
Because you couldn't.
No.
Do you know what I mean?
I get
It's
it.
like,
I get it. Yeah.
It's not good.
Right.
Why would it happen now?
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to profess, and I'm not, obviously I'm not an expert or a doctor. I just know what works for me and what works for other people that I've recommended it to is, if you're not feeling good, and I'm not talking about people who are laying down under medication. If you're not feeling good, and if you're feeling like the day isn't sunny enough, get your body. It could be a walk.
I agree with you.
Get your body moving. Yeah. Your body is very important.
Yes.
And it will help this.
Absolutely.
And I know it because I've done it.
I've seen you in the ring, and there's no doubt that you can kick Captain America's ass.
In a minute.
In a minute, yeah. But I don't know, did he kick your ass in the movie? How did
we had a good fight. He won at the end because he's
Captain America.
Man. But we had a famous scene. There's a famous, of all the Marvel movies, Captain America 2, there's this famous 6-minute elevator scene, an elevator fight with me and him.
Oh, I heard about that.
Yeah, and so that's like this epic thing. And I told him in the beginning, I'm friends with Chris, and I said, I'm going to hit you. So you better pick your hands up.
Wow.
And he's like, and he does interviews. He'll still say it. He'll say, what's with Grillo, man? Like, what? He couldn't.
That's amazing.
I'm like, I'm not pulling the punches, man. I'm going to hit you. And we were black and blue at the end of it. And it was,
You love that stuff?
I love it.
See, I hate that stuff.
I'd
rather do monologues.
No, I do that too. But I do some movies where I did a movie called Boss Level, which I produced with my partner, Joe Carnahan. And basically, it's Groundhog Day meets Die Hard. This movie, we only had like 30 days to shoot it. I did so many fight scenes, sword fighting, all kinds of physical stuff. I killed Mel Gibson. It was great. And I was never happier on a movie. I was never happier.
Damn.
And I'm old, man. I mean, but I see these 25-year-old kids, they can't keep up. They complain.
Now, what about when you did Gray in the Snow? Come on, tell me. Let me tell you. You didn't like that, Frank. Please tell me you didn't like that.
So we were in Smithers, British Columbia, which is way up there in Canada, in the winter. Okay.
Come on, man.
It was 35 degrees below zero. Every day, and we had to go on the top of a mountain. So we only had 6 hours of daylight. We had to go up in snowcats. It was me, Liam Neeson, and a bunch of great dudes. And it was so cold that we had to have 7 layers. So remember when you were a kid and your mother would dress you up for winter? You'd be like this. So there was no acting required. Like it was like just, what to say? And it was like, it was beautiful, crazy, and I never want to do it again.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask
Ever.
you. If that movie came along, Gray 3 or whatever, Gray whatever, would you do it now?
No. No. If it was in Miami.
But then you were young.
Oh, I wasn't young. It was just Liam Neeson I was a big Liam Neeson fan.
Right.
I had just done a movie called Warrior, which
I love Warrior.
Right? And so Joe Carnahan, who I knew, saw Warrior, goes, bro, you got to be in this movie. Like, it's going to be epic. We got to go do this.
Yeah.
And so I was like, let's go, And
who was in that?
Me and Liam Neeson and Dermot Mulroney. You know Dermot?
Oh, yeah.
Dermot Mulroney.
I thought that you were talking about the other Warrior. There's a movie.
Oh, Warriors. Me and Tom Hardy and Joel Edgerton and Nolte got nominated for an Oscar.
Yeah, that was a great film.
That was a great film too. Yeah. But no, I would not do the Gray again. I don't like working nights now. I'm spoiled. Like, what do you mean I got to work at night?
But you don't mind physical stuff.
That's all I do. I love it. Like doing Lamborghini was a departure for me because it was just a.
Now Lamborghini, let's get into that because I'm going to promote it and stuff. How was it? Because I played, obviously not in a big movie, but I played John Gotti and I played Desi Arnaz. You know, I'm a John Gotti, you know, right?
Yeah.
You don't fuck with your grandfather. You know? But how did you like playing somebody that was famous?
I loved it. The problem was I only had Banderas was doing it and he dropped out. And they had 10 days and they came to me. And I had 10 days. From the time they called me to the time I was in Italy shooting, it was 10 days. So I read the book that the movie was based on.
God.
That the son wrote. And I got as much information as I could without kind of trying to really be Lamborghini, I said, I'm gonna have to kind of make this up. I'm gonna have to use my imagination.
Yeah.
I spoke to his son with a translator because he didn't speak English. Spoke to Bobby Moresco, the director, a lot, and then just had a good time with it. I had all the clothes, I got into character, and I played a couple of different people that I grew up with, my relatives, my Italian, my really cool Italian relatives, and I had a ball. I mean, I had a great time. I had an accent coach, and I kind of did all that stuff, and I loved doing it because it was a challenge for me, and I was a little afraid.
Yeah.
And so being afraid is good. A lot of these movies I could do falling off a log.
Really?
They want me to be this guy. They want me to be Charlie Bronson.
I get you. I love Charles Bronson.
Right? Me too. I got a movie coming out where I swear to God I just emulate Charles Bronson. And they want me to be Kurt Russell and like that, and they want you to be that guy.
Yeah.
So I'm that guy. It's good. I could do that easily.
The Lamborghini was
fantastic.
that's a little hard.
That's hard.
When I did Gotti, it was one of the worst experiences of my life. It was a TV thing, and they gave me a day notice. And a
day to go shoot the shoot.
Yeah, I left on I think I left on a Monday, and I had to shoot Tuesday. It was just ridiculous. And there's nothing of John Gotti anywhere, because John Gotti doesn't do anything. So there was only one little piece of thing where it's with Victoria and Victoria's son, and Gotti's in jail, and he's like, "I'm your grandfather, you know what I mean? You respect me," and that's all I had. So,
are you kidding?
Yes.
That's a ballsy move to take.
It was a ballsy move, but at that, I don't want to really act anymore, to be honest with you. But at that time, I was still
right.
And so, I get there and it's not working, bro. It's not working, and the producer hated me, seriously. And then, so thank God, Victoria and I became friends, and she said to me in the trailer, I said, She goes, "What's the problem?" I said, "They want me to be bigger," and she goes, "Listen, this is great. My dad did not like The Sopranos.
Wow.
You play it like Michael Corleone in The Godfather."
There you go.
And that.
There you go. By the way, that's great advice. Great. That was great
Yeah.
advice. And that's kind of how I played this guy. Like, I heard all the stories about him, and he was a brilliant guy. He was an industrialist, and Mira Sorvino played my wife.
Yeah.
And Gabriel Byrne played Ferrari, because that's how the whole thing with Lamborghini was. He was rich because he started a tractor company. And midlife, he had all these Ferraris, and he wanted to work with Ferrari because he wanted to make them better. And Ferrari said, "Go away, you're a tractor maker." And he went and started Lamborghini, the car company.
Now, is Lamborghini the high-class car? Or what's the, like, I had a Maserati, dude.
Maserati's great.
But it sucked, dude.
Yeah, Maseratis were terrible. They were terrible cars. And so were Lamborghinis. Like, they were beautiful. They were beautiful.
Well, so is Maserati.
Yeah, but they're all Italian cars are just so gorgeous. But Ferrari is, you can't kind of. You can't
Aston Martin?
Fantastic car.
Yeah.
Really classy car. And now well made. A lot of those cars just didn't. I drove the old Ferraris when I was in Rome.
How was it?
They're terrible. It's hard to drive them, but they're gorgeous. They were good. The Miura, which was the car in the film, which I'm on the poster with, is a 1970 Lamborghini Miura. It's in the Museum of Modern Art today as the most beautiful car ever made. So he was obsessed with beauty, and he did great things with the engines and stuff. They just didn't work well for a long period of time.
Well, my Maserati, I knew I was in bad shape when I pulled up, beautiful car, and Patrick Dempsey comes up and he goes, "Hey, beautiful car, man." I said, "Yeah." He goes, "What year?" I just bought it. He goes, "Oh."
And that guy knows cars.
I said, "What do you mean, oh, Patrick?" He goes, "I just heard the engine's not that good."
Right.
And for 4 or 5 years, that car
just didn't
drove
work.
me crazy.
I know.
All right, brother, listen, I'm not going to keep, I want to talk to you one more thing about food.
Yeah, I don't eat it.
I know. And bulletproof coffee is what I've been doing forever.
Oh, yeah.
I was gonna do a scene with this guy at my work, and he was a new guy. I didn't know, and I thought I was gonna kick his ass, and then I went and ate because I don't eat a lot either. I ate a lot, and it messed me up.
Oh yeah.
And he kicked my ass, kind of, and I was
Really?
like, yeah, because I was in my, and I said, this has something to do with food.
Yeah. Oh, dude. Well,
Tell me,
that's a
talk
whole
to-
other show. So
Yeah, but I love it.
I train empty. Like I tend to eat one meal a day, and it tends to be the same kind of food. I mean, if you're a person who food has become such a thing in your life that it's a crutch when you're emotionally challenged, when you're bored. You know, if you just, which most people do, they just
Yeah.
eat. You're overwhelming your body. People, we don't realize, like, especially in the West, especially in this country, we overwhelm our bodies with food and calories. A lot of it's not good. A lot of it's processed.
Yeah.
Even if it says organic, a lot of times it's processed. All it's doing is slowing your body down. It's slowing your body down. And what you're saying makes perfect sense. I never train with anything in my stomach. And there is so much in your body stored in your brown fat cells, in your fat. You don't need to eat anything. Like, people think I need to eat oatmeal to go work out. I'm like, that oatmeal's not getting into your blood. It's not getting into your muscles. It's getting in the way. Wow. So now all the blood that you want in your muscles is going to your stomach to help digest this food. You don't want that. And it's the same thing. So you ate a bunch of food. Now the blood, when I work, and wherever I am in the world, you make these movies in crazy places. I don't eat.
But don't you get upset that you're hungry?
I'm not hungry. It passes, right? Hunger is a mechanism that a lot of the times, is it hunger? Is it boredom? Am I mad at my wife? And so I think I need to eat something. Like,
Right, I get you.
You got. But the clarity you get when your body is not stuffed with food is amazing. It's almost euphoric. I'll get to a place, it'll be 20 hours, I haven't eaten anything. And I'll get to a place where I feel so good. I feel so strong. And you just got to get past what you're normally used to, which is what you think a hunger pain is.
I know.
Right? And so, kids too, it's like, I see kids that are overweight, and I see, like, every time they get a ping, they think they got to put something in their mouth.
Yeah.
Like, no. It'll go away. It's going to go away. Drink a glass of water. It's going to go away.
Yeah.
You will operate so much better if, A, you're eating the right food.
Yeah,
And
that's
B,
true.
you're just not eating a lot of it.
That's kind of what I do, yeah.
I mean, you're in great shape, too.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, brother. Listen, I'm going to end this on, my son would have killed me. My Joshua would have killed me. First of all, Joshua came in the other day and he's like, hey, Frank's almost your age and he looks like he's 20. And I'm like, what does that have to do with anything? I said, I'm in good shape.
You're in great shape. How old are you?
I'll be 60.
Yeah, we're the same age.
So, and then he goes, ask him about, why doesn't he fight Jake Paul?
Jake Paul is 25
I
years
know.
old. Yeah, I mean,
you could.
he could fight. Jake Paul, actually, at this point, he's looking pretty good.
But you could, no?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always getting offered to do,
I'd love to see that.
Yeah, I know. But I'm like...
Is he too big?
He's a big kid. I just saw him in Puerto Rico. He's a big kid. He's not a great boxer. Like, I could outbox him.
Yeah.
I think. But he's a big, strong, 26-year-old kid. I mean, I'm 57 years old.
Yeah.
I'm strong. I mean, I do strength conditioning 5 days a week with Justin Fortune, who trains Pacquiao. And I'm strong. All his fighters come, and I train with them. And I'm stronger than them. I'm still stronger than them.
Yeah.
But there's something about,
But if he offered you...
Jake?
like a hell of a lot of money, would you get in there?
Well, I'll tell you something. It'd have to be a hell of a lot of money because they pay me a hell of a lot of money to do these movies, right?
Right.
So if it was a hell of a lot of money, it would be fun. But it would have to be a hell of a lot of money. Yeah.
And you wouldn't care because you don't care what people think.
Losing's part of playing. And especially fighting. I often say, like, I'll watch sparring. People get out and they don't really know what they're doing. They get at this point, they go, hey, You got in there. Most people wouldn't get in there.
That's true.
That's all that matters.
That's true,
So
yeah.
get
I've
in
heard
there.
that a lot.
Did you learn something?
Right.
Yeah. Well, there you go. You're
Right.
good. Move on. Yeah.
The Riker brothers say hi.
Oh, I love them. I've known them for 35 years.
I shot with them yesterday.
You did?
And
they're brilliant.
They're coming in here to do State of Mind.
Oh, that's great. They're brilliant. They are such beautiful human beings.
They are, man.
I've known them so long. They were, first of all, when I first met them, I went, "You two, get away from me. You're the best looking guys I've ever seen."
I know.
And there's two of you.
There's two. Yeah, and they're great photographers.
Oh my God, I've shot with them many times.
That's what they said.
They're beautiful people. Yeah.
All right, listen. This has been. I'll end this. This has been. I don't know. I kind of thought we would have this conversation, but it was that and about 4 times better with Frank.
With about this?
Just this whole state of mind.
Yeah.
I knew we would have a. You even said it. We're going to go deep, but it was. We covered so much,
Oh,
bro.
good. Okay.
And it's going to help so many people. I'm just telling you.
You know, I can't tell you, I can imagine what you get, but for me, as I started this journey, I get so many DMs and people reaching out to me. I mean, from The Rock.
Yes.
Saying, "Brother, I heard Jay Glazer's interview with you. Thank you
Yes.
for coming." You know, like people who are prominent dudes, mostly dudes, and people who DM me who are strangers who say, "Man, I was feeling really bad today.
That's
And I
right.
took your advice and I went out and I haven't taken a run in a long time and it really helped me. Thank you." And if I see him, I answer them. I'm like, "Brother, that's
And you know why you're getting these? Because they need it.
right.
And it's just the way it is. There's so many people out there that need what we just did.
Right.
They need it. Trust me, badly.
I know. And there's so much nonsense that we hear all day, whether it's about this party and that party.
Oh, I know.
Who's this one? You can't say this. You shouldn't have said that.
yeah.
And that guy did this 20 years ago. And
Yeah.
we have filled our minds with such nonsense, man.
Yeah.
Like we've lost our eye on
I agree.
on the ball a bit. So,
I agree. Well, we got on the ball today.
man, thank you for having me and letting me, blab and
No.
Yeah.
Because it was important, blab.
yeah. Good, brother.
All right. Thank you. State of mind. Adios. Thanks, man.
Oh, my pleasure.